Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy. We have reached the 15th entry in our James Bond retrospective with 1987's The Living Daylights, directed once again by John Glenn. Last week, we had to say a fond farewell to Roger Moore with A View to a Kill. We're all very, very sad to see him go. Probably necessary at that point, as we discussed in that review. If you haven't checked that out, go and check that out. That was incredible. And if you haven't seen A View to a Kill, please watch that film too. We have reached the first in it's like the double feature, really, the double whammy almost of the two Timothy Dalton ones. He only did two, covering the first one today. We'll be back next week for License to Kill. I think that one, we're all eagerly anticipating talking about that one, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've got to kick off with The Living Daylights right now. And once again, as you can see below, we are joined with really 007. We're joined with Tom and John. I think we organized this pretty much the last time that you guys were on, weren't we? We asked you, like, what do you want to cover? And you guys said Living Daylight, so here we are. So thanks for jumping on, guys.
We weren't going to turn down Dalton, were we? Goodness me.
Oh, my word. What's the time limit on tonight?
There is no time limit, which is terrifying. But
last week's was almost the record. We were 4 seconds short of our longest entry. So Moonraker is still in the... We should have our own little time recording then, shouldn't we? However, that was 2 people. But let's quickly, whilst we talk about Dalton, let's quickly bring up the favourite Bond ranking leaderboard before we get into the episode and do the socials. So as it stands, after 15 weeks, Roger Moore is in a slender lead over Connery, Brosnan and Dalton, who are chasing quickly behind. Thanks to you guys, we've got 2 Daltons on the board. So that's come from 2 out of 3 from really 007 pod. So we can't not invite you on, in all honesty. So who are the guys that didn't come onto the onto the... Oh God, I'm getting carried away for the Brosnan ones. We're only 2 weeks away from Brosnan, folks. No, you can't not invite anyone on that's put a Dalton in there. So we're really excited to get you on. But as usual, this is pre-recorded, of course, but we want to hear from you guys. Comment below your thoughts on The Living Daylights. We want to know your thoughts on Timothy Dalton. The first time, if you remember watching this film, all that normal kind of stuff that we always chat about on the stream or in the comments. So get commenting with that. We're going to go into it a lot tonight because we've not just got obviously the film. We've got to talk about the introduction of him in the role, and we're going to have a couple of other things before Dalton got cast, because Pierce Brosnan is going to get brought up again, thank God. Can't not bring him up on any of these episodes, rightfully so. And as usual, if you're new, hit that subscribe button. We've got a lot more Bond videos on the way. We've got some other stuff planned for after the series is finished. Hopefully, No Time to Die is coming out in September. Obviously, we're following some numbers very closely, so I refuse to believe it's happening until I'm sat down in that cinema and the gun barrel hopefully is on the screen this time. But if you are new to all of this, hit us up on our social medias, which is Facebook, Cinema Savvy, Twitter @Cinema_Savvy, and we've got an account on letterboxd.com/Cinema Savvy. But as we said, today here talking The Living Daylights. Now, normally we ask people who their favourite Bond is, but you two guys have already given us an answer, so I don't actually have anything to throw you on the spot with. I'm completely out of my brain, in absolute truth. But let's start with... Actually, we're going to start with Chris, as we do, because for those that also don't know, Chris, this is the first time Chris has seen not just, a new Bond film. It's the first time he's seen Dalton as Bond. So I'm going to hand over to Chris for his very initial thoughts, which I'm very excited by.
Oh dear, all the spotlight's on me right now, isn't it? The pressure's on. Oh dear. As you guys know, if you've been watching these reviews the last few weeks, I love Roger Moore's Bond. And over the last 7 weeks, I've grown very attached to his Bond and had a whale of a time. So that's the good thing about doing this retrospective. I'm going to discover new Bonds, and Timothy Dalton's his reputation preceded him from people just telling me what to expect from it. So going in, I knew that I was going to get a much more grounded, serious Bond, and mostly that's the case. There are some scenes in this film that tend towards more of the comedic side, which do feel more akin to perhaps a Roger Moore or even a Brosnan. I can't comment on that. I haven't got to the Brosnan ones yet. We will in a couple of weeks' time. So I think it helped going into this one, knowing that the tone, just tonally, it was a complete overhaul from what we'd had in the last few entries. I loved A View to a Kill, I loved Octopussy, and I love all of my ridiculous James Bond films, but I do think by the time of A View to a Kill, it was time for a change-up tonally. Obviously, it carries the same director over, and George, I think you said this to me as well, that it was 2 years apart between each film, wasn't it? Or 3 years apart, I think. And you would think it's a decade. It is such a stark difference from what has come before, even just filmically, I think A View to a Kill still felt very much, although it was very much an 80s film, it still felt very tethered to the 70s and that kind of 70s era Roger Moore-ness, and it didn't quite feel as up to date for an 80s film. This one did, so I do appreciate the new tone on this one. And do you want me to talk about Timothy Dalton right now, or just the film overall?
Let's give your initial thoughts on Dalton. We're all going to get into him in a bit, but just very curious. I think everyone wants to know this. This is what they're waiting for.
Okay, I thought he was great. Now, it depends what you want from James Bond, right? And I think ultimately that's what it comes down to for everyone who their favorite Bond is. It was very difficult to me because I do love Roger Moore. It was like someone new's in the job, and I'm like, you got to warm up to them. And I think with Dalton, he's going to be one of those, because there's only 2 films. It's kind of like a Lazenby thing where it might be difficult to. Granted, he did one more than Lazenby, but I think in terms of capturing Ian Fleming's James Bond and that gentleman spy and the sense of this weathered, British Secret Service guy who clearly wants out of the job and the job is taking its toll on him, I think he absolutely nailed it. And he is probably, from this one film alone, I think he best suits that. You're kind of intimidated by him in many ways. Even if you just see him, he's like, there's something kind of off about him. He's a very nice guy. He's very approachable. He gets the job done. He's an absolute gentleman, but there is something could snap any second. And I got that impression watching his performance. So I thought that really worked for the character. The parts that I didn't gravitate to are actually more of the comedic moments. I think if they were going for like a straight reboot with this thing, they should have just I think the serious moments, he absolutely nailed those, and the comedic parts and some of the things that felt more akin to a Roger Moore felt a bit forced. And it's like, nah, this is like Roger Moore's game. Don't try and do those things. And there are some silly moments in the film, which were probably some of my least favorite moments. But overall, I did really appreciate the tone with him. And I thought he was great. I'm going to pass over to everyone because I've talked long enough, but I'll give my general opinions on the film in just a second.
Yeah, no, it's a good way to start with Dalton, because before we get into sort of the film itself, the pre-credits, I think we'll talk about what happened behind the scenes. Of course, Roger Moore left, and it wasn't originally going to be Timothy Dalton in the Living Daylights. Of course, the man who would go on to become the best Bond ever several years later was in a bit of a drama. So obviously, I've never watched this. My parents have, so this is how I knew bits of it. There was a show in the 80s called Remington Steel. I'm not sure if any of you guys watched or have heard of it below, but it was an American drama, and essentially Pierce Brosnan was he was in a film. Well, it was a series of an actress, and she was basically it was all tailored for Bond. She was very much a spy, but no one took her agency seriously because she was a woman. So she hired Pierce Brosnan's character to be like the face of it, and he wasn't really a spy. He was something called Remington Steel. So it went on for many years. And before this show started, he had been linked with Bond early 80s. And as the years went by, obviously he didn't have social media back then, so it would have been, I guess, newspapers. There was always talk that he was a favorite, that the people liked him, they liked the show. However, the show was cancelled around the time View to a Kill came out and was done. And essentially what happened, he got hired by Cubby Broccoli. They loved him, obviously, why wouldn't you? And when it came out that he'd been offered the role, he hadn't formally been announced, but he had been offered the role. The Remington Steel had been cancelled, and that allowed him to get the role. Now, the way cancellations, I don't know if it still works out in America, you get 60 days. So they can, say it's now uncancelled, and you will have to come back and, follow your contract, that kind of stuff. On day 57 out of 60, they told him, haha, Remington Steel isn't cancelled because everyone's talking about it now because we've got the new James Bond. And because of that, they told Pierce Brosnan, sorry, you can't be Bond, you're Remington Steel. So he had to leave to go back to do the show. I believe the actress from Remington Steel was meant to be in RoboCop. And then she had to turn that down because she lost that job for this same thing. So it affected both of them. I don't know her name. But Remington Steel was quite big in the 80s, obviously dropped off. And then, then we get, of course, Timothy Dalton as well as this. I do want to mention that Sam Neill, that's right, the New Zealand from Jurassic Park, also auditioned, and apparently they very much liked him. But I don't know if this is closet racism. I like the fact we've got British Bonds now. I don't think that rule was set in stone by them. I'm assuming it was set in stone after then, but very much I can't picture a Sam Neill as Bond. I love Sam Neill. I couldn't picture it. Maybe that's because of Jurassic Park, but it's a polite fluke that we got Dalton. But I absolutely love it, and obviously I'm going to pass on to you guys. What are your thoughts on that? I don't know if anyone did watch Remington Steel. I've never seen an episode. I've seen clips of it.
No, I've never seen Remington Steel. Dalton and Brosnan's actual become Bond. They have some parallels. So Dalton was basically they were thinking about him for On Her Majesty's Secret Service after he had done a performance. I think I can't remember the film. It was with Anthony Hopkins, and it was that's the one. Critical acclaim, and he was basically earmarked for it, and he said he was too young for it, and he was also very reticent to even take it on because how could you follow Sean Connery? Because we all have our favourites, but Sean Connery is the best. And so then Dalton comes back later, and there's this kind of thing with Brosnan as well. You know, it's Remington Steel, and he comes back later, and I think both Brosnan and Dalton, whilst they would have been Brosnan especially disappointed at the time, they benefit from being delayed. I think it's a timing issue, and I think that these two films work so much better for Dalton in them. I think the Brosnan films work so well for Brosnan, and I'm glad that the way it worked out. Some people say about, do you ever wish that Timothy Dalton was in GoldenEye? No. Timothy Dalton's my favourite Bond. I'm so glad we have Pierce Brosnan in GoldenEye. I just wish there was an extra Bond film in between License to Kill and GoldenEye. You know, that's the way it is. I love both these Bonds. Timothy Dalton, it's a daring thing to do what he does. So you've got Roger Moore, who is so popular, so charismatic. He's an institution. And this man comes in and he says, I'm just going straight back to the books. And as a Dalton fanatic, I can only agree with what you say, Chris, is that the bits that fall short in this film are the one-liners, because that is just not Dalton. It's just not Dalton at all. And they sought that for License to Kill. They recognise it, that Dalton is the psychotic Bond, basically.
Yeah.
And in License to Kill, they give the one-liners, sorry, bit of a spoiler, but to the villain. He's the charming one. He's got the charming one-liners. And actually, they let Dalton do what he does best. And if you look at a reluctant spy, a secret agent, there is no one who does that better in the whole of the series than Dalton. He is sensational.
Are you referring to somebody else who is a reluctant spy in the series, John?
The plagiarist. Oh, Daniel. Oh, him. Yeah. Well, they say that, what is it? Is it copying is the greatest form of flattery?
Imitation is
Yeah, well, we just did a recording recently with a girl from Shayla from Toronto, and so again, this is controversial, but this is her who said it, not me. She said, "Dalton ran so Craig could walk."
Wow,
it's good though, isn't it? But anyway, right. People will be now on the live stream up in arms. Anyway, yes, yeah. There's loads of weird things with the casting, because there's also in For Your Eyes Only, Pierce Brosnan's wife at the time, Cassandra Harris, was in that, and she tragically died. So he was obviously present at some of the filming, and he obviously knew the producers. And even in Octopussy, of course, Roger wasn't necessarily going to come back, and he'd always been at the back of their mind. And then there are pictures of John Glenn with the Living Daylights Take One kind of thing with Pierce Brosnan there. So he'd done all the auditions, he'd done all the testing, as had Sam Neill. I think Sam Neill will be, because he's inseparable now from Jurassic Park, and
absolutely.
He's a charming guy. I don't think he's probably Bond for me. I think he's not probably action enough for me.
Yeah.
Especially when you've got Dalton and Brosnan, who are proper hard men, who you can believe in a fight and everything. But then, of course, it fell through, and because the option his contract again, so he's back. And then after one or two shows, it was cancelled again.
5 episodes I just read. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. So he could have done it, but like John says, I think we get the best of both worlds. I think
Yeah.
in the casting of Bond until this time, like Roger Moore, remember, is a year older than Sean Connery. So you could say, oh, well, Roger could have been Bond from the start. No, it doesn't work like that. And Roger's like a more youthful, wasn't he, when he started in Live and Let Die? And he was the right Bond for that 70s era. And, up to the mid-80s, yes, he talked about A View to a Kill. Technically, he might have been too old. He looked too old because the script isn't tailored around him being old. But he's brilliant. He's Roger. And I think the worry was that the public had got so used to Roger. I mean, it's like a generation of people, a whole generation of fans with him, that the fact that this did well at the box office, did better, amazingly, than A View to a Kill, it was a massive relief. So it's kind of a myth that Dalton wasn't popular with audiences. Yes, License to Kill went down, in terms of the box office, and there are various reasons into that. You'll probably go into that next week. But yeah, for me, it's the right place, the right time. And he set out his stall, like John said, reading the books. But he had to join pretty late in the day. They'd already started filming in Gibraltar. So the first few days, apparently, they were with like a double, weren't they? Basically for his scenes. And then they, inserted them later. And if you look at the press conference when he was announced, when in Vienna, you can watch it, I think, on YouTube. He's very, doesn't like it. He doesn't like that side of it.
No, not
and
at all.
That he's an actor. He's not a celebrity, and that's the same thing. He's not a movie star. He never wanted to be. So you get that amazing performance on the screen without him being a sort of Brosnan amazing movie star. But it works. It works for these two films so well, I think.
Yeah, and I think, you mentioned there, like, everyone loved Roger Moore. I think if they had have gone with Brosnan and got Brosnan straight away, I think that would have been a more natural transition, because from what I've seen of Brosnan, he feels very much akin to Roger Moore in his mannerisms and everything. So maybe with this, I call them like the blip Bonds. You have like Connery, blip, Lazenby, and then, Roger Moore, blip, Dalton. And I do like put him in that category because he only did two of them, but I think it was quite down to the wire, actually, when he decided to play Bond. It was posed to him, and I think, he debated it almost up until they needed to start shooting. It's like, look, we need a straight answer now, and then obviously agreed to do it. I don't know, maybe I'll read about the behind the scenes, especially when we get into next week's as well with License to Kill. I don't know how the studio were with him, if, he was easy to work with, or was it just out of necessity that they got him, because clearly Brosnan was their first choice, and it's just like, oh, let's just get this guy, and we need someone. And I don't know if it was a bit of that, but I do really appreciate the lengths that Dalton went to. The fact that I don't know if he read all of the James Bond books, but he was clearly familiar with the character and wanted to, dip him back into the books. And the films have never been completely faithful to the books in pretty much any of the films. They might take characters or ideas or even ideas from a later book and put it in an early one. Like, they've never been 100% page accurate, but I at least appreciate that he went to the lengths of reading the books and trying to emulate some aspects of Ian Fleming's Bond. And as I mentioned, he is quite unsettling in some scenes. There's moments where he's with the Bond girl in this, and, you can root for the love story and everything, but he's almost sociopathic in some parts, which he clearly, Bond as a character, if you want to do a psychological analysis on him, he's a very complex character, and he clearly is. But like moments in the Ferris wheel, and it's like he's got all these one-liners and just sweet nothings just scripted, and it doesn't feel like he's feeling them, he's just saying them. And I think this is the first Bond where I've really felt that. And this guy could just snap at any point. Also, like, his facial expression, I don't know if this is just a Dalton thing and this is just Dalton's face. Have any of you guys seen the Jim Carrey Grinch film? And he does like this like smile, this like crooked smile. I swear, like, every shot Dalton is doing that, and it just I don't know if that's his natural face, and if it is, I'm really sorry, Timothy Dalton, but that was quite creepy as well, just to look at him in a way. Yeah, it's weird.
I mean, we might as well keep on the Dalton, so let's switch it around. Let's stick the credit scene after we talk about Dalton, because I love the smile. And I mean, I know we're not talking about License to Kill, so I'm not going to say anything, but the dinner scene, when we get to talk about it, like, it's the way he just like sits there, and like, that face is like almost like melded on that he's got to say it. But I think he's superb. Obviously, it's easy for us to look at. We weren't born in the 80s. We didn't grow up with them. We didn't see it at the cinemas. We didn't have the casting not even debacle really. But it's easier for us to look at 20 years after it's come out than it was at the time. And The amazing of this film I saw after Hot Fuzz. So the first ever time I'd seen Timothy Dalton was actually in Hot Fuzz. And I mean, License to Kill again, I'll bring it up next week, but that was the last ever Bond film I saw in terms of I haven't seen all would have been 2022 at that point. But so License to Kill and Dalton was one that's very much a mystery. Wasn't ever on ITV much. Obviously, the other one has the age rating, but I remember like watching. I was like, oh my god, it's Skinner, and you kind of like because he's got an it took me years to clock it. It's not actually like it's his accent, but when you think of Welsh accents, you don't think of Dalton, but now like it's such a good accent for Bond, like because his Bond sounds vicious. Like it was someone mentioned earlier, this guy looks like he would hurt you. His voice gives you that menace. Like he's not got like a high pitched or really strong, polite Welsh accent. It's quite sinister, and I think that's kind of what you want from a guy that is going to kill you. Like you don't want to, you don't want anything else. And it's one of those where the more I've seen his films over the years, the more I've really respected him. More like he's gone up in my estimations. That sort of the films aren't there yet for me compared to where they are for others. But they do climb, and I know that's been something I've seen more in the last few years, that the more people have seen his films, the more they grow on them. But I think as far as it goes, to come in at such late notice, and certainly I always talk about the opening scene that, when he parachutes, lands onto the yacht, that's Pierce Brosnan through and through, isn't it? Like, you can tell that some of this has been written for Brosnan, and he can do it. And I think, this film was almost like a test, and because it's a shame he only did do two. You look at Dr. No, Connery is absolutely superb, and he makes that his own. But it's not perfected until Goldfinger, right? Not anyone could have done it, but it takes the 2 or 3 films, but that is exactly who his Bond is. Yeah. Roger Moore, I'd say, takes to till The Spy Who Loved Me to get this is a definitive Roger Moore film, and Dalton, to his absolute credit, he gets it on the second one in License to Kill. So it's really hard on the Bonds because you didn't get to do any more, and I really enjoy him in the role. I think it works, and also it's what you need after Roger Moore. That again, it's easy to look at now because of we have Brosnan who came after, who was more like he's like a blend, obviously, of Connery and Moore for me. But it's such a jump from Roger Moore to Dalton, and in the space of 2 years, what I said to Chris on a message for today, that the whole film, and you wouldn't think John Glenn's directed this either if you didn't know. If you put this film up side by side of Beauty, played them both, you wouldn't know it's John Glenn, because everything feels different, from the stunts to the tone, the performances, and I think that's to John Glenn's credit that when we spoke about Fiore's Only, sorry Tom for this, but obviously we didn't enjoy it too much, and I kind of said in that when you look at that and then you look at sort of License to Kill, when we get there, Fiore's Only is kind of like he was trying to get that way, but he couldn't get there, and obviously, View to a Kill was a bit more return to what we knew, but I think this film helped John Glenn break out from the Roger Moore stuff as well, and I think he can't get that if it doesn't work with Dalton. I think Dalton did well to come in so late, and I think he made it his own. I'd say that from this film, that there's enough in there to warrant him coming back, and obviously, again, On a Match is easy to look at after 50 plus years, but you can see why people weren't massively sold on Lazenby first time round, that the film is arguably better than him as Bond. And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But whereas Dalton, there's 1 or 2 issues, but there's so many good things going on with him that there's enough for them to like, let's get him in the next one, bring on the next release. And I think that's where I stand with him. He's very good, and it's maybe it's a sign of what's to come. That's maybe a better statement, but in a much politer way than that. I think he does a good enough job in this.
I personally think he's the best actor who's played James Bond. Actor, I don't mean film star. I mean in terms of how he plays it. I think he really does. We've got to give him credit at the turnaround compared to the previous film. I do think there's glimpses of that seriousness in View to a Kill, in terms of like the psychotic element of Zorin shooting down his employees and all the rest of it, and I do feel that, like, I feel that with that, that is John Glenn possibly pushing it, trying to get it a bit more serious, and Dalton, and this is like the transition film, so a lot of what you see the Dalton scenes, we're going to go through a few of the favourite scenes. There are some scenes, the best scenes in this film for me are when Dalton is serious and that there is a real conflict, internal conflict going on in him. But there are, I mean, I don't know if you've got anything on this, but there are deleted scenes. For example, there is a deleted scene of in Tangiers. Timothy Dalton goes on a magic carpet and flies off the rooftop, and it's like the most Roger Moore thing going. And you see this deleted scene on the Blu-ray, and Dalton, you can tell that he just wants the ground to swallow him up at this. This is not what I signed up for. And you can tell, I'm using that as an example, that there is still that tension there, is that this is the transition film. We're getting towards playing towards Dalton's strengths. The storyline is far more serious than things we've been having. But there are still those elements of Roger Moore in there, and they don't come off. The magic carpet ride was deleted. There are many one-liners that don't sit as well when it comes from Dalton. But what you are seeing is you are seeing the growth and the potential of the most realistic portrayal of Bond. And without sounding like getting on a hobby horse about Craig, the significant difference between Dalton and Craig is that Dalton's Bond is good at his job. Like Craig quits in every film, or in Skyfall, basically, like Craig fails his mission, and Silver basically set up codes for Craig to fall into. But this whole film here, this is spy work, like all the way through. He is told, you go and do this. And he's like, no, I've got a hunch that this is what's going on. So I will follow my instinct. And ultimately, my instinct is correct. And I think Dalton does it the right way, that it's not just being rebellious for the sake of it. It's being rebellious for the greater good, the greater purpose. And I think that
the greater good.
The greater,
Yeah,
we're
that's
all
all I
thinking
can
it.
think of.
We're all thinking it.
Sorry, we're getting a bit. Sorry, yeah, a bit political.
There's the link.
It's just grown in years. It's like a fine wine. It's grown in years, and people are starting to appreciate it more because they see what Craig's doing, but they realise that actually Dalton did it better. Sorry.
Did it? Yeah. You mentioned, to mention Hot Fuzz, that's so interesting that you saw that first, because you think, hang on, I heard that Dalton is a really serious guy and he can't do comedy. No, he's a great actor. He can do comedy, but he's playing a character who shouldn't be doing silly things. Is the point? It's like that character that he's playing doesn't do comedy. I mean, we're talking about a film called Hawks that I've still not seen, which is a farce. You know, it's music, but I know is it written and music by Barry Gibb. You know, it's so unavailable, these films, but yeah, he can do that, as we've seen. And he's so charming, isn't he, in Hot Fuzz? And in this, I think he is charming as well. And you'll see in License to Kill, the central thing of him, he is serious because of the circumstances. But there are opportunities when he can do that lighter touch. It's just he doesn't do it like Roger. If you try in this, because it's the sort of go-between film, isn't it? Between A View to a Kill and License to Kill, like John says, there are little bits that are left over. So I think see, John Glenn, he loves the silly bits. He's the one who loves all these, but he's also the one who loves the serious bits. So in For Your Eyes Only, where he kicks the car off the cliff, which is brilliant, I think, that show, he tried to persuade Roger to do that. Dalton would have loved that scene, wouldn't he? It would have fit him perfectly. Whereas Dalton, the whole, I don't know, I gave him the boot later, lines like that in this film, it doesn't quite sit with him. Yeah, there are leftover things like in Afghanistan, isn't there a bit where the sort of toilets are bulldozed over?
Yeah.
It's a kill with the fire chase, and you see those, people in bed. I mean, that's just John Glenn. I mean, that's nothing to do with Dalton, but he's a director who can do it all for me, and he likes that shift in tone. So when you'll see again with License to Kill, because it's a serious film, it doesn't mean the whole thing needs to be serious and everyone's up their own arses effectively. You know, there are moments of comedy. You'll see what's his name, Joe, Professor Butcher. Oh, is that yeah? I always get the names. Yeah. The Wayne Newton. Yeah. You'll love him. He's a comedy character in that. But yeah, just going back to Dalton, I think he can do everything. But the channel we're on now is we want to go into this area, and Dalton wanted to push it into that area, whereas Roger wanted to stay in his lane. He wanted to stay doing what he knew best, and he wasn't comfortable with sort of straying from it, even though he could do it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I think we had a commenter from a couple of weeks ago saying that John Glenn was their favorite Bond director, and I can see that. I think just from the sheer, we talked about moving from decade to decade, even year to year. It's just the range on this guy and just how diverse he can be in terms of the films that he makes, and yet still capture that Bond spirit, whether he wants to go more serious with it or whether he does want to make, like a complete comedy farce. He seems to find the fine line between it, which I do appreciate it for. The last thing sort of generally I'll say about Dalton, because we do need to get into the film itself. We'll move on to the pre-credit scene in just a second. My favorite parts of Dalton in this film, I guess I'm sort of jumping ahead to favorite scenes, but even just sort of like an individual shot are the parts where he's just sort of like on the job. At the beginning, when he just takes out the sniper rifle and he's just kind of loading it up and he's like leaning on the bed. It's, he's on the mission. He's walked from place to place. He's back doing something else. He's like, right now I've got to go from here to here, and he's got it all mapped out. Maybe he doesn't have a full plan, but he gets the job done. And I just loved seeing it. Seemed like a true British spy. Like this could be going on in our world. We'd never know about it, but it felt so grounded and stuff like that. Then you get the scene where we need to talk about the car as well, because we get the Aston Martin back in this one, although it's the V8 in this one, and it comes in black and it looks awesome. I love black cars, so instantly fell in love with this car. But then you get moments where like a laser beam comes out the car, and I thought, what are we doing? Like it just felt. Now, if Moore had a laser beam, I'd be fine with it. If Connery had a laser beam, I'd be fine with it. This one felt, that feels out of place to the grounded stuff that we had at the beginning of the film. So there's more moments like that, and the cello case. We'll talk about the cello stuff later on. I was like, "What are we doing?
Brilliant.
What is happening? I can't be seeing this." Brilliant. And then a serious scene later when he's on the Ferris wheel and he clocks. Is it Necros? Is it the guy or the hitman? And he sees him walking and he knows that he's up to no good. So although he's wooing the lady and is on this Ferris wheel for like the next 20 minutes, he knows love that part. And then you just get other silly parts. I didn't know about that deleted scene with the magic carpet. Thank God that wasn't in the film. That might have tanked the film for me.
Yeah.
But let's talk about his. Should we talk about his? I don't know if you guys want to talk about the car first, or if we just want to get straight into the opening scene where we get that reveal.
Oh, let's talk about the car, because the Aston Martin is to me one of the most important ingredients of a Bond film, and we went far too long without seeing one. Did Moore even get one in a single Roger Moore film? I don't think he did. And that's what's crazy. And I think with the V8 one, this is what really bugs me. I'm gonna get some views, but I'm not a fan of the skiing scene. But I love the fact the car has skis in it. It's so strange, because how do I not like the scene but love the invention? So make of that whatever you will, but it's just one of them where getting an Aston Martin back, I'm not big on cars. I like Formula One, but, growing up, it is the image of James Bond, isn't it? It is James Bond and an Aston Martin. And, the biggest problem I have with the Brosnan era is the BMWs, which is, I don't know if there's a thing for being anti-cars, who knows? But, getting Bond back with an Aston Martin is integral. And as well, you don't just want to give him a DB5 for the sake of it. I love a DB5. I'm happy to every Bond drive one. But you can't have done that in this era. And I also think the DB5 it was a famous car, but it wasn't the legacy it is now, because it's only been, 15, 16 years since it was probably last seen. Like, it's not, that would have been a weird time frame to go back to it, because it's not really retro enough then. Whereas obviously now, 40, 50 years later, absolutely. So it's a really fascinating discussion. But to me, Aston Martin coming up was the really big thing. And it's sad that obviously the 90s BMW deal happened. But looking at the Craig era, I'm glad that the Eon and Aston Martin have done their deal, which is, we don't pay you to advertise the car, you don't pay us to put it in. It's just free marketing for either one of us. So I think Aston Martin's legacy on Bond is important, and every Bond actor should get their Aston Martin, and they all do. Except
Moore did get the Lotus, though, you know. So
yeah, that's the thing. I don't
agree
mind
with
it
the
being a one-off.
DB5, but the Lotus is pretty fucking cool as cars come. You know, it's right up there for me.
Right, this is my favourite car chase of the whole series. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm sorry.
Wow.
There's one better one in Ice, which I will get to in a few weeks.
Die Another Day.
Oh.
It's not the best. I think still the original Goldfinger is the best. I do think that. But I think my favourite, you've got to look in the context that we haven't had a car chase with gadgets since The Spy Who Loved Me. So it's great that we actually get something like that. And I think especially with The View to a Kill, and actually Octopussy as well, they don't go down the route with Roger having a flash car. I don't know if they think it might look like a man having a midlife crisis as opposed to a spy, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they go with this. And I actually really like that they go with an 80s Aston Martin as well. So, like, as you said, Lotus Esprit, it's the stereotypical 70s Bond car. The DB5 is the 60s Sean Connery car, and I see this Aston Martin V8 as the 80s car. I think the scenes and the stuff with the lasers and stuff, I love it all. I absolutely love it. It's a bit of comedy. Is it silly? Of course it's silly. It's ridiculous. But you know what? But even though it's ridiculous, it doesn't take you out of the tension that you have got a load of Czechoslovakian policemen trying to stop Bond. And then the idea that we will put a big lorry just to stop them in the road. And you've got the rocket guns that come from that, and I love how he uses the heater to sequence the actual positioning of the thing. It was really great. And one of the great things of this is Cara, bless her cotton socks. I mean, we'll talk about her in a bit. She's so naive, but her facial expressions throughout this, I mean, she's absolutely gobsmacked, isn't she? You know, like, what's going on? I've never seen electric windows before. Never mind. And whilst it's silly, whilst the fact that he's driving round in a hut, that he's going over an edge, that he self-destructs and he goes on a cello case, it never loses its tension for me. It doesn't take it out of me. I find it the perfect blend of entertaining and tense. And one of the main reasons for that is Barry's amazing score yet again. I mean, Barry is just firing on all cylinders by this point.
His last score was this one, I think, wasn't it? It's the last time he did one.
Yeah.
And he was just going up and up in terms of his quality. He's just, it's such a great score. And the theme that's going on here, I love it. Yes, it is a bit Roger Moore, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I think it's superb.
You get that, you still get the tension, so you hear them on the radio, don't you? And he turns it up, and he's listening to the Russian, and that. Oh no, sorry, she's hearing the Russians. They're looking for a man and a woman and a cello. There you go. Yeah. So I think that works, but yeah, the cello scene itself is absolutely brilliant, and he seems to enjoy himself. So I think he proves himself in that. Just going back to the car though. Yeah, I've not thought about it that way. Yeah, so you've got the DB5 is the 60s Bond car, Lotus Esprit the 70s, this the 80s. I still love the Z3. I think it's amazing. The original Z3 in GoldenEye. That's Brosnan's car for me. And then Craig, to be fair, has got the Aston Martin Vanquish. So they've each had like an iconic car for them. We talked about it in our Skyfall review that we're not so sure. Well, John's a bit different on this, but not so sure he should have gone back to it's meant to be the same one in Goldfinger. That's slightly different to in GoldenEye when he has the car. Well, you just got it. He doesn't need to mention where he's got it from. Yeah, but and of course in No Time to Die, I think he's got this car, hasn't he? I think he's got the V8. It seems to be trailers.
I thought he had. Does he have the?
No,
the
he's back in the DB5. But they have. I said this to Chris. without getting into cars, the new Aston Martin, the electric car, they're really hyping up the future of the car industry. They had to switch it on set because it could only do 1 mile before it ran out of charge, and they couldn't find it in central London. So let that be a letter to Aston Martin that super electric cars are not needed yet. So I think they went back to the one from Spectre, which I love that. We'll get to that eventually. One of the highlights of that film is the cars. I will give it that. But yeah, let's show
the car.
Should we backtrack a little bit to the pre-credit scene? Because I do want to talk more about the snow chase, but we can talk about that later. We're going to be all over the place with this one, but let's go back to the pre-credit scene. So we're in Gibraltar. God, I've tried saying that 10 times fast. And they're on like a training mission. Now, I did read somewhere, I don't know how true this is, the original idea they had for this film was that they wanted it to be a prequel. Like a complete reboot from the ground up and kind of show Bond's first mission, or when he was still like a little bit green in the job, which I guess we get to eventually with the opening scene from Casino Royale, where it goes back to his first mission. And I like the fact that, don't want to talk too much about Casino Royale because we'll be talking about it in like a month's time, but that kind of towed the line between a full reboot and a soft reboot, which as the franchise went on cemented itself as a full-on reboot of the James Bond franchise. I think that would have been cool to see, but I do really like the pre-credit scene of this one. I think, going back to the ice chase, I think it's a very entertaining scene for the film. It's a very memorable scene to the film. It's probably one of the most memorable scenes in the entire film itself. But I always have a problem where if they want to go serious, just go serious. Whether you like serious Bond or not, pick a tone and stick to it. I have a problem when it kind of flip-flops. And I think that's the problem I had with For Your Eyes Only, was that Roger Moore had been cemented as a comedic Bond and you kind of knew what you were getting in for. So to see him in a serious film didn't work for me. And it's kind of the similar thing with this one. The opening scene was tonally consistent for me, with apart from the end when he parachutes into the boat and the one-liner, which we've already mentioned. But before that point, I love the uncertainty. You've got all these 00 agents sort of parachuting in, and you don't know. You think they're on a mission, and then they're all getting like picked off by like the SAS, and it's like, no, you were caught, you were found. And then one of them gets killed by like a rogue assassin there, and I thought, oh, okay, the intrigue's kicking in now. And like when they do introduce a new Bond, they build up the reveal. I think apart from Roger Moore, I think we talked about that. It's kind of like a really low-key opener for Roger Moore, but all the other ones, Lazenby and everything like that, I'll never forget that Lazenby intro, like how long they delay that. And it's kind of the same in this one. And then we probably get my favorite shot in the entire film, which I already used as a GIF on our social medias. Yeah. It's as the camera zooms in and it's the dramatic turn on the cliff face. And it's like, there's our new Bond right there. I think it was a perfect way to do it. They pepper in the reveal because you don't know which one of these agents, one of them's Bond, but you don't know which one. And then you get that final reveal there. And obviously he gets the job done, doesn't he? Tracks down the assassin. Awesome stunts, like absolutely death-defying heights on that. I did read that apparently they filmed from the same strip of road towards the top. It looks like obviously they're going down and down and down, but apparently from the magic of filmmaking, they just kept resetting on the same bit of road, use different angles. You would never know because it looks incredible. Wow. The bit where he's dangling on the car and he's like almost careering off the edge. Incredible stuff. And the bit where he like parachutes out as well. I know they had I forgot the name of the guy now, that he's like the parachutist they've always gone to, I think probably since Moonraker. I think he's like, he's in the know with the parachute and stuff, but I think they ended up using a dummy for the final wide shot where he gets pulled out of the car with a parachute. I don't know if that's true or not. I think I read that, but I was like, okay, that's an opener. It's probably, I don't think I'd put it up there in like my top 3 favorite Bond openers, but that was consistent to this more grounded take of, like an SAS mission, like a training mission, which I really appreciated, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect opener for him. And sorry to bring up Craig once more, but that's what I like of the Dalton and Craig ones, that when you don't need a humongous set piece to introduce your Bond. I'm not complaining about it when we get it in GoldenEye, but I love the fact that it's a bit more quieter, it's more sincere, and I think not any Bond entrance is the same. All of them have been sort of crafted differently, and I love this one. And I was reading as well that Dalton obviously wanted to do, he did a lot of his own stunts, and he wanted to do the parachute jump, but they wouldn't let him, which is incredible. Like, I love the fact that he wanted, and it's someone that's committed to the role, and that's another good thing for him. We know with filmmaking, you're not going to let your A-lister jump off an aeroplane. It's just common sense. But the fact he wanted it, I think, taking that role, wanting to do it all properly, I've got mad respect for. But it's a low-key credit scene, but they managed to edit it and to make the action work. That, yes, it's a training base, but there's tension, there's stakes. The fact there's the rogue assassin as well is a really interesting dynamic to have with it, and of course it factors in down the line. But one of my favourite moments of this entire scene is this brilliant bit when the car goes through the shed. You watch this guy, he jumps off the cliff. See, they're all diving out the way left and right. And there's this one random bloke who just yeets himself off the cliff. And I always wonder, saying, was there a landing spot, or did he just jump off to like his potential death? So on a rewatch, keep out of that. But I love stupid things like that. But that honestly made me laugh so much. You probably shouldn't have, but I think it's one of the better opening sequences. You know, I think for what they're trying to do to establish your bond, it succeeds in exactly that. I think that's what you need. You know, it'd be weird if, you know, Dalton was doing like an Octopussy where we're going to stick him in a plane, we're going to have him do all of this because we don't know him yet. So let us get to know him through this, and then we can delve later on into the film doing that. And I'm the same as you, Chris. The only bit for me that doesn't work is obviously the one-liner, but again, that's something that they work on and get better with. So I absolutely love this. It's a very underrated opening scene, probably a better time for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's top 3 for me. I'm a massive Roger Moore fan. Listen, don't want to get into any kind of big comparison thing, but one criticism that we aimed at Roger is that very rarely you ever look at a stunt and think Roger's ever doing it, and especially in View to a Kill. I mean, they don't even make it any kind of like, they don't even cover it, do they? You know, oh, it's somebody else driving the car. But the thing with this is that you feel that it's Timothy Dalton on top of that Jeep. You feel that it's him climbing up. You feel that it's him running, and he's got the physicality to do this scene. I agree with you, Chris. I think when he turns and looks, it's an amazing entrance. Barring Connery, which you're never going to beat because he says the immortal Bond, James Bond. It's probably the next best introduction of a Bond for me. I think it's absolutely phenomenal because obviously you've got the 3 00 agents who have been on the plane. Obviously you've got one with the blonde hair, but the other one's got black hair, so you're not entirely sure which one's Bond. And then it's building it up, and then classic John Glenn, the birds fly away. Quickly look, the jump scare. Every John Glenn film, he always has birds flying away to jump scare you, and then you turn and there's Timothy Dalton. It's an absolutely brilliant scene, gorgeous score going on. Excuse me, very slight tangent, but the guy in it who the assassin who drives the car. When I was in year 8 at secondary school, I had a substitute geography teacher who looked the absolute spits of this guy, to the point that I asked him if he starred in The Living Daylights.
Stuntman.
Living Daylights. No, I'm a geography teacher. But yeah.
We're building the villains up, you've got the assassin at your school, we've got Nick Nack at George's school, like got a whole rogues gallery going on here.
Yeah, I to be honest, having to think about this pre-title sequence, I genuinely think it's probably the best. I think it's my favourite. I think it's just got absolutely everything. Like you say, introducing Dalton, it's so difficult to do that. And the way it's done, not only who is Bond, but is Bond in danger? And you've got I just love the sort of, are they like pink, when they get shot, those sort of pink pellets and stuff.
Paintballs.
Yeah. It is, but yeah, so you've got, hold on, you're dead and all that stuff. It's so good. But tricking the audience to, how scary this guy actually kills people, and you're like, oh my word, it's such a good setup, isn't it? A training exercise. Hang on, this guy's real. He's actually killing people. So it can be seen as a one-off on its own. It works as like a mini film, doesn't it? But it does link to the plot, because that incredible bit where, if you remember, the guy's he's climbing down on the rope, and the bad guy spins down the Smeat Spionum, and the John Barry music to it, and he realizes he's going to cut it's just incredible. And that's the moment that Bond realizes something's going on, doesn't he? And you get the turn, and the theme tune comes in, and you're like, right, I'm sold already on Dalton. I'm sold that this is the hero. And yeah, the stunts on top of the on top of the Jeep going down. It looks so fast, that Jeep going down. And I honestly, that bit where how he sort of is released through the parachute is such an amazing stunt. And I always think it's very similar to the way Kamal Khan dies. You see a very quick shot of him, and then it blows up. It's so impactful. I think it's, and then you get the little light relief at the end, a bit like Octopus.
Oh yeah,
got the little gag at the end with I'll call you back in an hour, and then won't you join me? Better make that two.
There's one.
Well, yeah, of course.
Boys and tennis bros.
Yeah. So we can do the one-liners,
I think it just it didn't really mesh with it. I don't have a problem with the one-liners themselves. I think it's just him.
Yeah.
I want to go back to that bit where you said like when he cuts the rope though, the assassin, that you see the fall and it's brutal. It's horrible. Like I've always got a thing with that in like films. I think recently I had this with this is a spoiler alert for Tenet, so if anyone hasn't seen this, but a guy falls off a boat towards the end of the film, and that got like a visceral reaction out of me in the cinema. It was just like where I felt the impact of that, and just when you see him tumbling down this cliff and he's like smacking on all the rocks, it was really, really harsh to watch. I know our next section we've got Bond Girl, but we also have quite a few allies in this one. Do we want to do allies first, or do you want to do Bond Girls first?
Oh, let's go for allies.
Okay, should we kick off with Sanders then, played by Thomas Wheatley? I know you guys have been doing multiple parts of the Bond allies. I think this guy, I think he was great. Like I love his sort of back and forth that they have. They're both getting the job done, but there is a little bit of a rivalry there. I love when someone uses someone's words against them at the beginning, and it's where Bond says like it's a need to know, and he just takes off in the car. So I did like that. But I like how Bond, you could say that he's way more disconnected in this one as a character psychologically, which I do appreciate, but he's got his back and that they've both got a job to do and he's going to get it done. So even when he's in the Ferris wheel, like he's looking out for him and he's monitoring the situation, and you really feel it when he gets killed. And did the dude get cut in half by the automatic door? Like he was halfway, did he get like sliced through the middle like that way? Like it was a brutal death.
Cut in two, and the actor had to play it, but I think it's better that you don't see it again.
Well, I was going to say, like the mind can take you to like way more places than anything can be shown on film. So I did appreciate that. And then obviously that riles James Bond up, but he's probably one of my favorite allies we've had so far, I would say. I think I can say that so far. Maybe there are many more to come in all the future James Bond ones, but he definitely stands out. And I think it's because he stays in the film so long and he gets a lot more screen time than most of the allies have than the previous films. I think he's a little bit more memorable than perhaps some have been before.
Yeah, it's another one to add to the John Glenn killing collection. I'm going to say that there's a big trend there, which I don't mind it. We say that the Bond girls, right? There's always one that could be a villain and the one that's not going to be the villain. So I don't mind it, but the allies, he's one of the funner ones, and you feel that not that he's incompetent, but the build up to his death, you probably know he's going to go right, and obviously we've got the balloons and everything, and I can't help but think of Batman when I see stuff like that. I don't know why, but I absolutely love him in this, and it's because he's so innocent. Like he looks like he's doing a good job, and I think that's why it works. That you would trust him. He's meeting him. He's getting ready to do it all, and we know he's going to go. We know they're sat in the cafe together. How is he going to go? And you get tension off knowing he's going to die, and it's so savage. Like the way that, and it's Dalton's reaction to it that sells you. Like he's not really mourning him. He's kind of pissed off. It's like, right now I need to find out who's done this. Like, and I think that's why it works. And it's kind of tragic that because Dalton went on the ride, didn't he, as well, which led to that ultimately. You could argue, but I think he's really enjoyable, and I love the whole dilemma with that he wanted him to kill Kara. And I think that's a really interesting perspective with this, that we know that Bond, he's a killer. We know he can kill. And I think Calvin Dice of it, he's only killed 4 girls in cold blood in the entire history, which is insane when you think about it. But when you think about it, it's like, would Bond have sniped someone And it's that right, and that's what I love, that he knows Bond should have done it, and it's the whole joke. And when he sees him in the audience with her later on in the film, and like Bond sort of does the smile at him as well, I think he's superb. I really enjoy him, and I think we get enough from him from his screen time to have that firm. Because we know there are so many allies he meets right in every film, but so many of them's like a 1 minute scene and done, and we never go back to them again. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, they had a history somewhere, but this one is like, okay, they're doing the job, and yeah, I feel sorry for him, but I like him, and I think you couldn't have kept him any longer. I think he'd have been a hindrance past that point.
He has character development, which for a lot of allies don't really. So he starts off as this officious bureaucrat who, you know, sorry, old boy, paragraph 26, section 5, whatever it is, and no, the other way around, and, you know, need to know basis. And even though Bond gets the mission done in getting Koskov defecting, because he reports him just because he didn't follow Saunders' way of doing it. So you really start off on this foot with him and think, oh, I know people like this, just give it a rest. Even though I think Bond antagonizes him quite a lot as well. And then when it gets to the opera scene and he notices the girl with the cello, the sniper. No, it's Koskov's girlfriend, and the penny drops that Bond was right all along. Mm-hmm. He realizes that it's not about it's not about doing it in the process. It's about getting the job done, and we need to trust Bond. And his character changes to the point that he goes and gets the documents and he risks it. And he says that line about I've only got my pension to lose. You know, he's happy to put his job on the line to get the right result because he trusts Bond now. And then they give that lovely nod when he says good luck, and Dalton just turns and goes, Saunders, thanks. And you just think, oh, what a bromance is going on here now. And then all of a sudden the guy gets sliced in half. And it's typical John Glenn. You set somebody up to the point of thinking, I really like this, and then I will cut you out big time. It's like set you up to knock you down. And Saunders, we seem to, every person we talk to on Bond loves Saunders, and we thought we were the only people who were really into him because he's never talked about. And Thomas Wheatley, the actor, he has no kind of social media presence, nothing like that. And he just needs to know that how appreciated he is as a character, because he's brilliant. He's just class.
If Matt was here, he'd and we've heard the story before, if you've heard us, but he saw him we were watching, I think him and Mum and Dad were watching a play at Stratford upon Avon, and you know it was a Shakespeare, and Thomas that's Thomas Wheatley, that's Saunders, and he was just a couple of bit parts, when you have two small parts, that was it, and he was hardly in it, and
fair play, yeah.
Mum and Dad wouldn't let him, try and speak to him after the performance. I'm sure there was a queue around the block for Thomas Wheatley's autograph. I think you've had VJ, who he's nice from start to finish. The audience loves him, and it's genuinely it's awful when he dies. It really is shocking. That's probably the most harrowing one. But this has got that extra layer because he is a Jobsworth, isn't he? He's like telling Bond, I'm here to look after you and make sure you do your job. You're a loose cannon, this kind of thing. Section 28, need to know basis and all this sort of annoying to Bond because Bond's a professional. And the fact that it gradually, he gets him annoyed to the point of he almost like, if M fires me, I'll thank him for it. And he's so annoyed with him, and he does go rogue. See, this is again, to bring back Craig, he goes rogue because he's right, but he's not going rogue for selfish reasons. He's going rogue to get the mission completed because he knows that Koskov, he's fishy, basically, isn't he? So he has to get Kara on side, and he uses her in a way, doesn't he? He does. So when that final scene in the Prater in Vienna, which John and I have been separately with our wives. But that scene then is just absolutely incredible. The acting by Dalton and him are just fantastic, and that You know, we'll talk about favourite scenes later, but the bursting of the balloon is, I mean, that if you could pocket if you could pocket Dalton as Bond in a single moment, you know, there you go, incredible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the bit with the sniper as well, we'll probably, that scene will come up later, probably for favourite scenes. But I love how Saunders thinks that, oh, you know, typical Bond, you know, he's always chasing the ladies, you know, he always zones in on the cellist or whatever. But I don't think that, well, I get the impression that Timothy Dalton wouldn't have had any qualms about shooting a woman, but it's the fact that he knew that she wasn't a seasoned assassin. And that was the thing that he clocked. It wasn't the fact that he might put on the facade that, oh, it's a woman, I'm being the playboy, but the mission was at hand and he's good at reading people in that moment. So if it was like an actual assassin and to clock that, I don't think he would have any qualms about pulling the trigger and, you know, taking out that assassin. But I quite like that. So yeah, we've got another couple of allies in this one as well. I think the other notable one is at the third act of the movie. We've got Cameron Shah, played by Art Malik, who's the leader of the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. I love this character. Now, I think overall in the film itself, the third act, at least the airplane stuff, was probably my favorite part of the entire film. I love the way that was staged, the action set pieces, the bit when it's in the air. We'll talk about that scene much later. I guess I have a thing for the plane scenes in these films. I've noticed, like, Octopussy is still probably my favorite third act of all the Bond films I've seen so far. But I also love this one in terms of all the stuff they do. But I like how when we're introduced to his character, he's just kind of behind the jail cell and he's like, hey, like, chuck me the keys. And then that in that one act of Bond throwing him the keys, that sort of like creates that friendship and trust between them. And I loved seeing the Mujahideen in action as well. You've got Bond doing his thing, but I also loved seeing the ground troops, you know, with the horses and trying to get to the place where they need to. And then ultimately the moment later on where Bond fulfills his promise and you know, helps them out by, what does he say? I've got to drop a bomb or something like that. I like that moment. So yeah, Cameron Shah's another great ally in this film. Did I like him more than Saunders? He was a very different kind of ally, essentially, isn't he? But he's there and he serves his purpose in the final act. And I think that he leaves such an impact despite being introduced so very late into the film as well. I just loved his scenes that he has with Bond in it.
And I think it's what you kind of mentioned, the fact it all starts off in the prison, that it's not a cheesy action, it's a good action, but we've seen so many films like that before, right? When you've got the prisoner who, you know, it's Pirates. I mean, obviously,
Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's played for comedy relief. But when you get the moment when they break out, and it's actually, you know, this isn't your normal stuff. This is they were planning on going to get him out. Like they were all there ready and waiting to kill people, and that's what I love. That there was already something else going on, and the fact that he saves Bond life, you know, favor for a favor and all that kind of stuff. And that is what you said, Chris. It creates a respectful friendship between them right away. And I think once you can clear that part, you're ready for the finals. You don't need to take 10, 20 minutes to set them up. He's had it simply by throwing him the keys. And obviously, you know, he grabs the guy's arm and holds him, which is a really great moment. I love the little fight in the prison, actually. Yeah. And I think it's a good way. Now, that act does get not weird, but they set up a lot very quickly. So I think there's a lot to take in still. Well, you know, with how the film's flown and stuff, and you know, with all they had to put a disclaimer out for the Red Cross, didn't they? Because how much it's used, and they were annoyed by it and stuff like that. So it's interesting reading stuff like that, because obviously in the 80s that thing was obviously so uncommon, whereas now, you know, there wouldn't ever be a disclaimer for using the Red Cross in that kind of way. But I really like him, and I love the whole. It feels very Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
And
Last Crusade, 100%.
This thing, I don't mean it as a criticism, because I love Indiana Jones, and you know, especially, you know, how do you pull away from the Indiana Jones comparisons when you've got John Rhys Davies in it?
Yeah.
You know, it's that's one of the other things that comes up as well, and I love seeing them on the horses. You know, when they go to attack the base, and we get he does the whole truck thing like Casino Royale, which I never really clocked that it was similar. So I loved his role in it and what they bring to the final act. And the fact it was a bit different, that it was Bond needed to stay in the plane to stay with the bomb. It wasn't a case of, you know, him getting onto the plane to do all that. It was the other way around, that they're the ones trying to go on. So I think that made for a fascinating parallel anyway. But I think he helped. I think he helped speed it up as well, because you wouldn't get if he wasn't there with an army, Bond's just going to have to sneak into another base with the Bond girl to save the day, and it just felt a little bit different, which I enjoyed.
I say it's very Rambo 3 very quickly as well. I know you haven't seen the Rambo films, but I think that's in Afghanistan as well, isn't it? If I remember rightly, I think.
We recently did a podcast on allies, and I put Cameron Shah in the category of an ally by circumstance. So usually you have allies who are either contacts that have been given by someone, and then you have the other contact of contacts that you refer to by the contact, and then you have these ones that just pop up out of nowhere and then they contribute to the story. And this is very much one of these. And what I like about Cameron Shah is that he's quite a nebulous character. So in terms of at the end of the day, he's buying heroin or selling heroin, and he's not a goody two shoes. In a different film, he could be a villain, but he is basically an ally due to the circumstances of Bond helping him. And I think that when you look at a world of espionage, it's not as black and white as these are the heroes, these are the villains. It is very murky. And I've heard some people with the criticisms of the Mujahideen and the ickiness of that. But at that time, no, it's absolutely, it fits perfectly for what is going on at that time. And the fact that I love this aspect that Bond wanting to stop Koskov, and yet then they go and do their job, but they find out that Cameron Shah and the Mujahideen are actually selling opium to Koskov. And it's just this amazing, like, intertwining going on in terms of hang on a minute, the person you're trying to stop, you're selling stuff too. And it's just, I think it's new territory. And I think it probably paints a very realistic portrayal of espionage as well. I think it's cracking, and I think Cameron Shah is a great character.
Yeah, sorry to advertise again, but we did an episode with a guy called Cary Edwards who's done a book on the two Dalton Bonds, and one of the key themes in his book is the far more murky who are the bad guys in these two films. So with Sanchez, you've got he's a bad guy, but there are other things complicating it. There's other deals going on in the background, and it's a more grounded version of reality. Because you think you've had Zorin, who's like a megalomaniac, isn't he? Basically, other than his main motive is you could say money, but he's an absolute psychopath. He's a complete psychopath. Here, you've got all this, espionage, the Cold War. You've got Russia. You've got everything. You've even got the CIA involved, haven't you, with Felix? So there's so much going on. And Cameron Shah, I just love that transition. Like you say, it's been done in movies time immemorial. First, if you see him in the classic, he looks like a scruff, some villain. You presume he's just never going to be seen again. And then, hang on, he's basically a prince. He's clean, he's sort of cleaned himself up. Yeah. Really good looking guy. He's got all these incredible guys who are following him. And he says he went to Oxford. I think he's really well spoken. I don't know whether he is part English or whatever, but he's very charming, Art Malik. I've seen him in a lot of things over the years, and he's not just I'll help you Bond. They like laughing at him when he first tries to ask. I just want to go basically on my own, and I can spare neither the men or the horses, and he'll go. He basically has to wait, doesn't he, until the morning. Which gives him Bond a bit of time to do the deed, of course. Yeah, it's quite convenient. But he's superb. I think the Allies is one of the strengths of this film. So we'll talk about the other one later. But absolutely love both these we've talked about so far. Yeah,
I never really thought about all the layers until hearing you guys talk about this and how everything's all connected at the end. Because I actually kind of had I love how the staging and the direction of the third act, but how it comes about, it felt very much like an afterthought. Like one overview of the film, I found this one kind of average for me as a film overall, and I think it's mostly down to the plotting. I didn't think the plot was that interesting past the first act, really. And I think ultimately it kind of came down to the third act in that like in a passing sentence, it's just like, oh yeah, selling opium, he just does it to like make a little bit extra money. I'm like, this is our third act. This is what I'm meant to be like out of my mind over. This is the fate of the world here, in that this job is just to make a little bit of extra money on top of all the other money that he's making. So it didn't feel like the stakes were quite there. The stakes are ramped up when you've got a ticking time bomb, which is just, a staple of spy cinema, and you're even getting it in modern ones. Probably one of the best examples, Mission Impossible Fallout, has a great ticking time bomb at the end of the film, which is, it's always tense every single time if it's done well in a spy thing. So you've got that, you've got the incredible stunts. So I think I took in the spectacle of it all and the staging and just how well it's put on the cinema, but I never thought about how it was all linked. So I do appreciate that, but I do think that it didn't feel intrinsically linked into the plot. It felt like, oh yeah, and we're selling opium and he's making money and we need to stop him doing that immediately as of right now. So it didn't feel like it had a through line from what had been established from the rest of the story up in that point. So that'd probably be my only negative I'd have with it.
Personally, I actually completely agree with that, Chris. I love this film. I think that the big criticism I would have of it is that there is a real mystery going on with the Spionum, and they're trying to kill Pushkin, and you're wondering what is it for, and ultimately it is just to sell some heroin to make some more money. So I do agree that the stakes aren't very high from the tension that's been built before.
I think as well that's a really good segue to another ally we'll bump up with Pushkin, because I adore the whole, I mean, that's jumping ahead, the whole, he's the villain, he wants to kill the spies, oh no, we're going to fake his death. One of my favorite Dalton moments from the entire film is the staging of the death of Pushkin. What we say about Dalton, he's a cold-blooded killer, and he looks fierce when he does it, and
brilliant.
It's when you get past all that, and it's like, oh, this was the reason why, and it's where, I mean, we'll get to the villains shortly, but you've got such a really good Act 1 and 2, kind of as Chris said, and then you start to drop off with some of that, and it is going back to it's the reasons why and the stake of it. And I kind of want to mention Pushkin as well, because you've got John Rhys Davies in this now. Obviously, this is before Lord of the Rings, but I believe he was in the first Indiana Jones one. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, he was.
First and third, so I'd imagine that's probably why I can't see him as a Russian. I'm so sorry. It's like, this is John Rhys Davies. Like, I don't
Not
hear
the worst
Russian
accent I've heard in a film.
No,
fine.
No, but it sounds very Welsh still, doesn't it? But it's just, listen, I'm happy that he's in a Bond film. I just wish they could have used him a bit more, because I love seeing him, and I love the whole, like, he didn't tell his wife as well, all that kind of stuff, and then we just don't get him till the final scene, which he has a great line as well when he sends Koskov away. But I wish we got a bit more of him, because he's a really interesting character, and I know that we've spent so much time with General Gogov as well over these, and I think the actor was too ill. He would have been in that role, which would have been both a blessing and a curse, because then it would have been too attached to the Moore era if it was the whole, we're going to fake kill him and all this. But to have him in a little cameo near the end, I think worked a little bit more in his favour. But I liked Pushkin. I just don't think we got enough of him, which is a shame, because there is interesting setup, and I believe they wanted him back for the next two, but it just never happened, which is a shame as well.
That was going to be my question if he came back. I guess that's answered my question. Okay.
Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Pushkin, he's probably not in it all that much. Actually, you're right. Thinking about it, you're probably right there. I think when he is in it, his screen presence is just there for all to see. But that's John Rhys Davies. I mean, I've said this before, that of all the massive films I remember being in an episode of Peak Practice, and he just like stole the show there. He's just presence, isn't he? And my favourite scene of the whole of the Dalton era is the scene when Dalton throws him on the bed and points his gun at him, and the conflict that goes on there. I think you've just two acting powerhouses playing off each other there, showing, not telling. You can just see the fear that's going on, the conflict, and the brilliant. I love Pushkin, but thinking about it, it would have been really nice to have seen him come down at the Afghan air base and think, what's going on here? Part of his, actually thinking about it, it's perfectly logical to think that he'd be there, considering he leads this army. So yeah, I take that point. It's fair.
I hadn't thought about whether Gogol, if it would have been better with him in it. No, I think it's better with Pushkin because there's that uncertainty. Because the audience genuinely don't know whether he is, on Bond's side, on MI6's side at all. And because he's Russian again, you sort of assume he is a baddie. But because it's Bond, it's more complicated than that. It's not simple. And they needed him set up so that you would believe Koskov. You wouldn't believe Koskov was the real baddie as much. So if you had Gogol and him, it would be like, well, why on earth would Gogol have just been, decent all this time and then suddenly turn against Bond or whatever? So I think it works perfectly. Yeah, that scene, like John said, is incredible. The brutality of Bond, what he needs to get the job done. I know everyone criticises in The Man with the Golden Gun when he, Miss Sanders, I'll break your arm if you don't tell me, but it's that same, if the mission needs it, I'm not going to be sentimental about it. He just sort of uses the one with his gun, just takes the clothes off just to distract the guard, but it works. And then he's got Pushkin there, and the way he's got that wristwatch to try and get the guard back in, and that was damn stupid, and he kicks him. And it's so good. And then eventually then I must die. It's just a brilliant line to end the scene, and yeah, and when you think he's dead or he's faked his death, and then he's like, I mean, that's hilarious, and his wife's crying over. Brilliant, I love him.
I was really excited when I saw the opening credits of this thing and I saw that John Rhys Davies was in it. Gimli, son of Gloin himself in this film.
Yes.
I mean, and as you said, like absolute just presence on screen, really tall, imposing. Well, actually not in Lord of the Rings. He's a very small, imposing character. But physically, he's just, you wouldn't want to mess with him, especially in this film. And he plays it well. And this is kind of the problem. I think he's great, but I think he's criminally underused in this film. I really do. And honestly, seeing his portrayal of Pushkin in this film, I think he should have been the main villain. I think John Rhys Davies should have been the main villain in this thing, because we'll get onto the villains later on. They're not even worth mentioning, in my opinion, the villains in this film. But out of all of them, he was the only one. And, that he is played as the villain at the beginning, but Bond seems to know that there's something else not quite right and that he's probably not going to be the villain. It's the red herring kind of character, isn't it? But every time he's on screen, he's incredible. When he's giving someone a talking down to you, it's like, okay, John Rhys Davies, you're really scary right now. But then he's just out of it, and you kind of get a comedic thing with like the faking the death thing, and he plays comedy very well. He plays whatever you put in front of him very well. He's John Rhys Davies, for God's sake. But when I saw that he was in this film, I thought he was going to be really in this film, and it's you barely see, he gets like maybe 3 scenes in total, and he's great in them. But I just think that his presence on the screen in the film overshadows all of the other antagonist characters, to the point where I just really don't care about them. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, because I know we're talking about villains later, but that's sort of my initial pitch. But my question to all of you guys was going to be, but maybe I'm going to see more of him. Maybe at least I'm going to see him in the next Dalton film. Maybe he's a character that comes back, a recurring character. You've answered my question that he doesn't. So I think that's a real shame. I think he would have been a really good recurring character to come back and get more of him throughout the films, I think.
Yeah, I'm thinking, shall we talk about the villains and get them out of the way before we get to the Bond girls? Should we
I was going to talk about Felix really quickly, because he's, I think, the only other ally that we need to talk about. The only thing I have to say about him is that he's played by John Terry, who plays Christian Shepherd, if anyone's watched the TV series Lost.
Absolutely.
So I was like, oh, it's him, it's Christian Shepherd, and that's basically all my notes that I have on him in this film. He's barely in it, like 1-2 scenes at max, and he barely says anything, and apparently he gets recast in the next movie anyway, so that's it. That's Felix Leiter. He's in this film.
Felix coming back's a weird one. I mean, obviously, because we all know what's coming next, so we know it's weird to have Felix back, change the actor from obviously the last time we saw him, and then to the next one, it's like, haha, Felix is back again, but it's the other one. So poor John Terry. Yeah. And the saddest thing of all of this, you speak to any person on the street, who's John Terry? They're not going to tell you Felix Leiter, they're going to tell you the footballer. So that's another sad part of it as well, isn't it? So Felix Leiter's a weird character. You know, we didn't get enough of him in this, but he's someone I've never really cared for massively, bar like 2 films. Obviously, one License to Kill and Casino Royale. So very, very odd character. I don't know if anyone else is like that with him, but there's just always something weird. I think because he changes actors so much. It's only when you get recurring ones you really start to care about him. And obviously, you know, the one thing I'm saying looking forward to No Time to Die is Jeffrey Wright coming back, who I think is a very good character actor, and I think he has been a missing presence for the last few Bond films. But yeah. Anyone else want to chime in with John Terry thoughts? Not the footballer.
He's just very forgettable, isn't he? And it's not his fault. It's not anything to do with the performance. It's just to do with the fact that he's in 2 very brief scenes, and actually Felix is completely superfluous. There's no need for him. That's the issue. Is that you're in the middle of Tangiers, and so why have you got a CIA agent rocking on a yacht with 2 women driving around, you know, picking up people? It's pointless. It doesn't need to be there, and it's a waste of the character. That's the issue to me. It's a waste of the character. It's nothing against his performance, nothing against the actor. It's just very forgettable and not really needed. Especially when you've got 3 incredible allies already in this film.
I think, well, we have just recorded an episode on Felix, all the different Felixes. So, I mean, the problem is this. Chris says he would have liked to see this Felix, John Terry, see what would have happened with him in License to Kill. But I think the rest of us just think, well, the Felix in License to Kill, even though he is older than Bond, he's just unbelievably good. And you need him to be unbelievable for the plot of the whole film of License to Kill. It is essentially all about him. I won't say any more because that's the beginning. So don't worry.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, that's the biggest role for Felix in the whole series so far by a mile in License to Kill. I agree.
I do think this one's. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, go for it.
I was going to say it is kind of strange, and we'll talk about this more when we get to Moneypenny. But it feels so much like it wants to be a reboot. You know, even down to the recasting of Felix in this film, and you know, I'm fine with that. You know, Bond changes, you know, every other film, so that's something that's to be expected. But I feel like with this one, the supporting cast should have changed around him as well. You know, you get that with a different Moneypenny, which makes sense. I love Lois Maxwell, but age-wise, I don't think it would have worked, and it makes sense to age a Moneypenny down. But you still have Desmond Llewellyn as Q, and I love Desmond Llewellyn as Q. But it feels even more so than Casino Royale, where you have the same M, and that's basically it. This one, you've got so many elements that are still tethered to the old, but it's also trying to be new, and there is kind of a little bit of a conflict going on. But I actually didn't have a problem with Felix being recasted, but I kind of feel like I have more of a problem that they got the original actor back. Like, just get the original actor back for this film. Like, what are you playing at? Like, I know it depends on director and writers and whatnot, but that is very strange. Really quickly, though, before we move on to Bond Girls, and I guess this is quite a good segue, I would feel amiss if I didn't mention one other ally towards the beginning of the film that we haven't mentioned. And oh my God, I've just lost her name, but she works at the Trans-Siberian Pipeline. Here we go. Rosika.
Yes.
Incredible. She's probably my favorite ally in this entire film. I'm not going to lie. The one scene that she gets, it's amazing. It's very silly. It's exceptionally silly, but the plan works, and she's great. And you don't need this long explanation as to how long she's known Bond and why she's helping him. We just know he's got a contact there at the Trans-Siberian Pipeline, and she's brilliant. Julie T. Wallace, the actress, I thought she was great. She really made me laugh.
Yeah,
it's like a one-scene wonder kind of thing as well. It's so random as well. Like when you think like that's Timothy. Like if it was Roger Moore's contact, like absolutely, that's Timothy Dalton's contact. Like okay, but no. You know, it's memorable, and that's what you want. It's silly, but you know, I guess in plot wise, it works, right?
Yeah, it's class.
She's on Twitter. She's
is she?
So yeah, yeah.
Well, what kind of girl do you think I am? Whatever it is, what she says in subtitles.
Oh, and another sad fact about that scene. You know, the other guy who she's trying to distract by basically, you know, charming him. He is the funny guy with the jewels in Octopussy, who's trying to sell. You know, he's looking at the jewels in the Kremlin with Kamal Khan.
Oh
And
yeah.
all of in 2 days. I don't know whether yeah. So there's these people who knock about. They're often in like the Indiana Jones films as well. They're all merged into one, aren't they? But yeah, brilliant character.
Yeah, great.
Awesome. Right, let's get on to the Bond girls. We're almost an hour and a half in, and we're just about to start talking about the Bond girl. There's more characters in this than I initially expected there to be. Luckily, there's only really one Bond girl in this film, though, which should hopefully save us a little bit of time. So we have Cara Milivoy, played by Mariam D'Arbo. You guys are probably going to hate me. I really don't like her character in this film. I barely have anything to say about her. She's kind of the damsel kind of character. I do like the initial setup, though, that she's tasked to be the sniper. I do love that aspect of the character. But after that part, honestly, guys, I'm gonna struggle to think of anything to say about her in this film. The bit that really annoyed me too about her character, and you could add a joke in here, a really misogynistic joke about female drivers. I'm just going to leave it there. He lets her drive the plane, right? And Bond goes and takes care of all the other stuff that he needs to. And he comes back and she's careering it into the side of a mountain. It's like, you are piloting this plane. Fly it up over the cliff. That's all you got to do. And then Bond just comes in and just like pulls back on the joystick and clears the cliff. It's like, you can see where you're flying. Fly the damn thing up. So that just really pissed me off about her character at the end. She was just a little bit simpering. Like, I guess some people could view her as kind of like a sweet character, but she didn't have any of the personality or the staying power as some of the other strong Bond women, and she was just kind of there to be saved. And that can be a fine trait for a Bond girl. I mentioned last week, Stacey's character, is that her name? That she is mostly there to be the damsel in distress, but I felt like she played the damsel better than Mariam does it. I don't know. And everyone's probably going to be hating on me in the comments right now. We're pre-recording this thing, so give me a hate. It's fine. But she did absolutely nothing for me in this film at all. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. I think that's going to make two of us.
Better make that too. Yeah.
It feels like for a franchise that's moving forward so much at this point, this feels like when the Bond girls from like the 60s, just that they don't obviously like strip her down like they do in every Connery film, that she doesn't really do anything but just say like, James, like, I mean, I know they're all contractually obligated to do it at this point, but I don't know. They're just, I love the whole sniper premise. I like the fact that she's connected to Koskov, but then when it gets the whole like drugging thing and it just feels a bit. I don't want to say I want to see her get killed. That sounds horrible. But like, when sometimes you can offer Bond girl, and it's kind of like,
can we Tracy Cara in this film, please? I wouldn't be sad at the end.
I just think once Koskov sent her to prison, which we knew he'd do, it just from that point on, I just didn't care. I mean, I didn't care much beforehand, but I'm hoping for you two guys to kind of pick it up because me and Chris are worried that we both. I don't know. I think she's very forgettable. And I mean, I didn't like Stacey last week. Sorry, Chris, but this was also one where it was just let's try and pick things up because I don't know. I just didn't feel connected to her,
and I didn't buy her with Koskov either as a love interest for him either. Like, I just never saw those two together, and ultimately it wasn't part of the plan, but just the idea of those two together. We'll get onto it when we talk about Koskov, but yeah, over to you guys. Balance it out because everyone's going to be angry in the comments. Balance it out, please.
She's not one of my absolute favorites. That's how I'll start. There needs to be a bit of context. So when this film was created, there was an AIDS crisis going on, and James Bond was under a lot of criticism because in the last film you had Roger getting 4 separate women in View to a Kill, and Bond was under pressure to really tone down this issue. So I think that is very much got to be taken into account, that you have got Bond is a one-woman lady, apart from the lady at the beginning, one woman man, but apart from the lady on the boat at the beginning, and as you say, she's never scantily clad or anything like that. She is very much a civilian, and she's written really as a naive civilian. I think Koskov's quite blatantly manipulated her to be his girlfriend for his own purposes, and that's actually what Bond does as well. Bond manipulates her to get to Koskov, and she's written quite dim, and she is relatively dim. There's points that, you know, when Bond puts the Scouse guy in the Afghanistan prison, and she goes, "James, we're free." It's like, "Cara, we're in the middle of a big airbase."
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, so she is very naive, but she does have a bit of character development, because for somebody who is a bit dim at times, this is also the woman who, when the Mujahideen refused to help James, she rode off on a horse on her own to help
I do
James.
like that bit. I do like that bit.
She was also the woman who got in the plane at the first point and started, you know, when Bond's flying the plane off, and she's driving down, and she's like saying, "I want to come with you. I want to come with you." And Bond's trying to do this, and he's getting so exasperated with her. But then she's brave enough to get on that. She's written as a naive character, but there is a bit of character development there, and I think credit where it's due. I think there's more to her than quite a few of the girls in the Roger Moore era. I think she's written better than those. I think she's a realistic character of somebody who has got some guts, but there's some naivety there as well. She'd be mid-range for me, but I quite like the story arc. Go on, Tom.
Yeah, we haven't done an episode on Living Daylights itself, and we haven't really talked about Cara an awful lot. She's sort of seen, I think, by most as the main Bond girl of Dalton's era, because she's the only Bond girl in this one, and he is, like, you know, he's pretty much monogamous apart from the dalliance at the beginning, which is only implied. We don't really see anything. It's like a weird kind of love story, because he sees her, he sees something in her, he sees the vulnerability in her, that she's being used by, you know, her boyfriend Koskov. He then sort of rescues her, but doesn't trust her. He's still, you know, and there's the scene when she drugs him, and that, you know, chlorohydrate, listen to me, you know, and when he's like, you know, and then seen this film so many times. And then she sort of, like John says, she really comes good at the end, and you feel sorry for her when, even though she's no longer obsessed with Koskov, she's still got a bit of heart for him. And then when he sort of says to her at the end, like, I'll put you in the Siberian Orchestra. They're quite good, and it's like so dismissive, and you feel for her. And of course, she gets the lovely ending with the concert, and of course, John Barry's the conductor. His only cameo in his last film.
Oh,
so a little touch there. But yeah, I think Cara, she's realistic. She looks like someone who's in an orchestra. She looks like a cellist in a Siberian orchestra, and someone who's a pawn in this game. I agree. She's not like feisty enough for people to sort of rate her as one of the best. But like, even some of the criticisms of Stacey are that, oh, she just screams a lot. Yeah, but she's a civilian. She's not, you know, like Wei Lin or someone like that, or, you know, they're actual proper trained secret agent, or Anya Masova, and in Holly Goodhead, they're actual professionals. So of course they're going to be a bit more, you know, in Bond's face, and they aren't going to be putting up with everything. But he's basically her savior in this. So I can understand the criticisms of her, but I think she works so well for this film, I have to say.
I do like that she has hopes and dreams. I like the fact that she's a professional cellist. I thought that was a really nice touch to the character that we haven't seen before. And I do like where her character arc kind of comes to at the end, that she does. Yeah. That's all she wanted to do was play there, and now she has the opportunity to do that. So that was really nice. I think, you know, you mentioned that she was kind of realistic and naive, and like, if you're going to have that, stick to it. But then at the end, when she is flying planes and when she is ramping cars into planes, you could argue that there isn't really grounds for that aspect to a character, because, yeah, she's been with Bond like maybe like a week or so, but that doesn't mean that she's going to be able to do all this crazy stuff. It works for like an action climax, and it's you know, the spectacle of watching it. But, oh God, I'm going to compare. Okay, Willie Scott from Temple of Doom. She seems to be cropping up quite recently. I think we talked about her a couple of weeks ago in the live chat. We're going back to that. But say what you want about a character. If you hate her character, then, you know, that's totally fine. But she is consistent through and through. She starts as completely clueless, and, you know, Indiana Jones is having to like instruct her and getting really frustrated with her. And she's like that all the way through to the end of the movie. There's no moment where she like grabs a sword and starts sword fighting or is really competent fighting. She is as naive as she was at the beginning of the film when she joined in for the fight. So I think maybe if you are going to have an innocent character, you can't be having her doing like all the crazy action stuff at the end unless you make her an action character, and maybe Koskov's trained her up a little bit. I don't know. Maybe you could have done something like that she has at least experience with some of these things. So that's where I kind of had the divide with the character a little bit, that especially towards the end, that she turns into like G.I. Jane and she's like riding off on horses with like machine guns and ramping cars. I'm like, this is cool. I like it. But it feels a little bit out of character from how she was at the beginning, I guess. I don't know. That was just me.
No, that's absolutely fair.
Should we go to the... we've got another Bond girl listed, in a way. We've got a Caroline Bliss, the recasting of Moneypenny. Honestly, at this stage, does she go into the Dalton... not the Dalton era, sorry, the Brosnan era? Does she stick... Oh, we get another one. Oh, my God. Okay, another recasting. I was going to say, from this film, I feel like John Rhys Davies, I feel like I haven't seen enough of the character in this film, and hopefully they come back. She looks nice. She kind of looks like, as like secretary in office kind of thing. Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't stray into the territory of the film Secretary, because I can understand why it might be the highest rated James Bond film, the next one, if it goes in that direction. But she seemed nice. She was just a nice character, but she's no Lois Maxwell in terms of that back and forth and how she can dish it out just as good as Bond can take it. She just felt quite nice, demure kind of thing, but I don't feel like I've seen enough of it. She's in like one scene in this film, and especially with it being a recasting of a character, you haven't got those previous 13, 14 films beforehand with that same actress. So I feel like I'm still warming up to her, but if she's going to be around for like one more movie, then I guess she's going to be out on her ear before anything else has happened. That's all I can really say about Moneypenny. Again, kind of going back to what I said, it makes sense that they recast her for the age thing between her and Dalton, but then it is also strange that some actors they've kept the same and some aspects, and just reboot the whole thing. I think this one should have been like the complete reboot if that's what they wanted, but it is nice to see some of the familiar faces back again, even if it isn't Moneypenny.
Yeah, we just don't get enough time. I mean, not to make it sound horrible, but because she's in two films, it's so hard to gravitate to, not even gravitate towards her, but supporting some more support roles. Like, we talk about Desmond Llewellyn, and he's an absolute icon, but can we talk about his first two films in isolation? If you know where I'm coming from, that you wouldn't be able to compare that. I guess, I mean, we'll get to eventually. It's like John Cleese, isn't it? You get two appearances, and you're just coming off the guy that's been in all of them, and then you're going to be gone straight away. You just don't have time to warm to him.
I didn't know that Cleese was only in two as well. This is breaking my damn heart.
Wow. He's not worthy. That's what I'm going to say. For once, he isn't.
It's John Cleese you're talking about right there.
No. John Cleese is better at being John Cleese than Q. I'm just going to leave that there because I'll
we
leave
have disagreement. We have. I can tell. Moving on.
Let's stick with Moneypenny. Canvas, we just don't get the time with it to care about her in truth, and maybe it's my bias, right, that I'm in the Brosnan era, so I align more to that one. But it sounds really sexist when I say that Caroline Bliss looks too good looking to be with Bond. But luckily, Timothy Dalton isn't Pierce Brosnan or Roger Moore, so he wouldn't try and seduce her. That's how I've always approached this film, so that counterbalances it out.
Very good.
There's not very much you can say, is there, really, about that? I mean, Chris, I'm so sorry. I mean, you're saying you can't wait to see the next one.
I know.
The Living Daylights is her main part.
Oh, my God.
By a mile. Yeah.
By an absolute mile.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Okay.
I'm just sorry. I mean, what do we know about
she is in the next one, though, right?
For about 10 seconds.
A little bit.
Maybe.
Christ.
She has wonky glasses and she listens to Barry Manilow. That's about all we know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, like, she's not bad, is she? She does it well. She does it serviceably, but she's a victim of the delay, and I think that's probably one of the problems with the John Rhys Davies one as well. Is the License to Kill completely set, nothing to do with the Cold War, complete set in America and Mexico, and then you've got a 6-year gap, and GoldenEye starts after the Cold War. So, I mean, some of these characters like John Rhys Davies, Caroline Bliss, that you would just love to see more of, I think they're just victims of circumstance, really. I think if you'd had a film in 91, film in 93, you'd more than likely see them, and we'd have more to talk about with them.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't thought about that, John, but yeah, you're right. And particularly after you said that Pushkin might have been lined up for other ones, which he would have been great. A bit like you'll see in the Brosnan era, the Allies are superb in that, and they have like because it was like a set period and it wasn't a reboot, but there's basically only Q, wasn't there, who was left over. So you could sort of have a sort of Brosnan universe where the Allies, they're in 2 out of the 4 or 3 out of the 4, and it works really well. So with this, it's a bit difficult because you just get 2. I don't think they were trying a reboot because obviously Q and M are the same, and it's only because Lois Maxwell was effectively retired and they wanted to get a new actor. But I agree. I've not thought about that, George. Yeah, she's quite nice looking. So Dalton is needed to sort of be a gentleman in front of her. But I think they have quite a nice chemistry between them. It's that nearly, won't they? I mean, but again, Brosnan and Samantha Bond is superb. I hope you enjoy that, Chris. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
Which one's this?
This is the next one. We're already planning for the future.
Yeah. She'll, Samantha Bond will she'll forever be the second best Moneypenny. Mm-hmm. So it's not really fair on what she gets to do, but I think she's great in this film. And I won't say anything about a 10-second scene in License to Kill.
That's mad. That's absolutely mad. I mean, I know there's some films where Moneypenny's barely in it, but Jesus Christ, 10 seconds, like Christ.
Yeah, well.
I'm not exaggerating, am I, with that?
No, we're not. No.
Is it?
No.
Oh, I hope I like License to Kill now. Like, I'm hearing like horror stories now from this, and it's making me worried. But
there's so many characters in it. That's why. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've got some more characters to talk about now. Let's move into the villains. And I'm sorry, guys. Again, kind of like Moneypenny, I really don't have much to say about any of them. Let's start off with, I guess, our main villain, and that really pains me to say that this guy. Follow him, Walken. Like, I mean, Christ almighty. I know that you're probably not going to top Christopher Walken, but Jesus Christ, at least try. I'm not even going to try and attempt the actor's name because I will completely butcher it. I think it's a Dutch name, but obviously plays General Georgi Koskov. I like the character at the beginning before you know the whole situation that, Bond's just got to be there to facilitate the transportation of him via the pipeline, which I thought was great. There's a KGB defector. So I like the initial premise, and it's just this kind of really incompetent, like childlike character that's just terrible and awful, and Bond's having to like be a parent and like look after him and babysit. And maybe it's because you're introduced to the character in that way that kind of framed the character for me in that light for the rest of the film. There's the moment where you get him later when he's like, I think he's by the pool, isn't he? And he's still kind of acting the same, like an absolute idiot. And I never saw him as a terrifying villain. I never saw him as a capable villain. And the whole plot revolves around the fact that this guy's bad news, and this guy's got like his fingers in all the pies, and he's going to like damn everything. And I never got that from this character at all. He's barely worth mentioning. I couldn't tell you anything else about the character. Utter waste of time. And that kind of goes for most of the other villains in it as well. This guy at the moment is probably in like my bottom 3 villains so far. He's awful. I like his introduction, but the fact that I was surprised watching the film, and it's like, oh, we're staying with this character, and that no, he was faking defecting, and he is actually a villain the whole time. And it's, I guess, a novel concept, really, in the Bond franchise. But you needed that switch. You needed like a performance or something where he is acting kind of really incompetent at the beginning, but then when he becomes General Koskov, it's like, boom, complete transformation, and he's terrifying, and he's been playing the part. He wasn't playing the part, though. He's just an idiot. And that's it. That's all I've got to say. You guys take over. Very disappointing.
I'm going to give it a positive spin. He is not the worst villain of this film. That's Whittaker, who is one of my least... I thought
he was more memorable than Koskov. I didn't like him, but he's more memorable at least.
He's only for being American, though, let's be honest.
Exactly. Yeah.
Koskov's a weird one because I love the concept, right? Russian general, Cold War, defecting. Let's get him out. Let's get him safe. They're hunting him. That is a really interesting premise. And what we mentioned, this was a return to espionage to its spy roots. It's a really great way to set up Dalton. And I think, Chris, you've kind of hit the nail on the head, which I was struggling to think of, which is that once you still get him playing, it's like the smug fool, isn't it? That he's because he thinks he's won. You lose a lot for him that he never thinks he can lose. And, so many villains have that mentality, but there's just something off about him. I almost said something that would get cancelled for, but when I think of him, I just, when you get these films, you get like a greasy salesman or something.
Yeah,
it just reminds of one of them, like in like a sitcom, like here's like a greasy salesman, and he'll try and trick you all, but eventually, he's going to get done by everyone coming together, and he feels like one of them, and I just don't gravitate towards him. I want to, because I love the premise, and when we get him back, I'm in control, send these to jail. And it's what you guys mentioned earlier, like, where's Pushkin? Like, this guy is like, they've been trying to get him for a few weeks. How the hell has he just rocked up to an airbase? Like, they'd all be on high alert that someone's just gone AWOL. And I just struggle with him. And I don't like the villain plan. And, I think it's hard to follow a Walken. Don't get me wrong. It's no step that many people can take in any film. But it's just so flat. I don't know. I feel as if he could have been great if he had a great villain partner, but he didn't. So I think that might be it. That might be what I'm thinking towards more.
Nailed it. That's, to me, I agree with that. I like Koskov. I really do. The late 80s seemed to just thrive on having douchebag characters in films. So, like, you think of Ellis from Die Hard.
Yes.
They always have like sleazy characters. It's like the Wall Street era. License to Kill has one. The late 80s love that, and I love that. And I think Koskov serves that really well. The problem with that is that they are never main villains. They are the sleazy comic relief to the more sinister main villain. And I think that because of that, because I think Brad Whitaker is fine, but he's nothing more than fine, Koskov sometimes gets unfairly maligned as, Koskov and Whitaker are weak. No, I think Koskov's good, but I think he needed a bigger presence, because he's not a threat, is he? He's just not a threat at all. He says he's smarmy lines, and you're laughing at him as he says it, and it's deliberate. But he needed someone of the presence of Pushkin to actually, if he was his sleazy henchman, you'd be like, this is brilliant. But I would defend Koskov. I think he does a decent job. I think it's just the fact that he suffers from being a main villain with Whitaker. That's the issue for me.
I've got so much to say on this. I'm sorry.
Go on.
Well, it depends. All this depends on what you want from a Bond film and what you're in the mood for. And because you guys are watching it in order, like I said before, nothing's gonna. It's gonna be a drop off after Walken, isn't it? I mean, he's just so good. Now, I don't understand. Everybody's favorite Bond film seems to be Casino Royale, and you've seen it, haven't you, both of you?
Yeah.
Just to make absolutely sure. The baddie who's brilliant dies with about 45 minutes to go.
I did have a problem with that the first time I watched it, but I didn't know the formula at that point when it was the first one I watched.
That wasn't the formula exactly.
Yeah.
So, I'll defend that at the same time and say that you could say that worked for the film, because that's all about his relationship with Vesper, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the real storyline. But in a case where the villains are muddled, you don't know who to trust, Koskov has to exist for that purpose. I think he's brilliantly cast for that character, like John says, a sort of sleazeball. He sort of wines and dines them in the safe house in the countryside with a Hardy Bollinger, the best, and he gets them, and all that. And you can see that Bond's a bit like not really taken with him, not just because he might be dodgy, but because he's just not his kind of person. He's too in your face and everything. And he's got this girlfriend who he treats terribly, and he's got his own thing going on. He does turn slightly. I do think he becomes a bit more sinister, but perhaps not enough to be a proper main villain. Now, if you've got this plot and you've written it all out on paper, I think both of them are perfect for their respective roles. The problem I think you guys have is you didn't want it to work out like this. You wanted either Koskov to emerge as some really seriously evil guy, or Whittaker to be a proper bad guy. Whereas Whittaker is delusional, isn't he? He's like, I mean, do you want to talk about Whittaker first, Chris? I want to hear your thoughts on him actually.
You might not want to. This is where like the film itself. I started off. I love Dalton and everything. This is what pulls it down to the average score for me. It's kind of the plot and the villains, and this goes with Brad Whittaker as well. I'd say he's infinitely more memorable than Koskov, although I will say Koskov has the infinitely cooler name. Every time Dalton says Koskov, like it's a great name, but not a great character for me. Brad Whittaker feels like he's a completely comedic villain, like out of the Moore era, like this crazy little guy who's playing soldier and like wearing the outfit and has got none of the titles and everything. It does make me laugh though, his introduction in the film. He just feels so out of place in this film. Way out of place in this film. Way too comedic, juvenile. It just completely clashes with the tone for me. Every time it cuts to him, it feels like I'm watching, and maybe they were doing some satire with it, but it just feels quite out of place in Bond to me. It did make me laugh though in his introduction when he's checking out all the waxworks dummies that he's got. There's one of Hitler, and he says like the world's greatest leaders. I was like, oh my god. And also his entrance, how he's just there like, and then he like emerges out of the mannequins, like he holds the pose for no reason. So that did make me laugh, but I think it's ultimately when it like cycles back through to the end. You've had this incredible third act set piece in Afghanistan, amazing stunts, death-defying things with the plane. And then you have a moment of calmness where he says like, oh, I know someone here. Let's just drive there. And then it like smash cuts and we spend no time there, and Bond's on his own and he's on the job. And it kind of reminds me of the ending or even like the beginning of Man with a Golden Gun, that it's like a wacky fun house of gadgets and weird things that are set up. And it's just this feels so removed from the rest of the film, and even like the other part of the third act that we're literally just hot off the heels of. And I know that's a Bond thing. We just talked about it with Casino Royale, that you kind of have like a big ending and then it goes on like a little bit more. But for that to be your final part of the film, I don't know, it just felt really cheap, weird, and no tension. You're not scared of Brad Whittaker. You don't believe that he's like this completely unhinged guy. He's just laughable. He's not threatening at all. And that's because that's where you're leading to. That's the end part of your film. There's just no tension there. And that's kind of where the film falls apart for me, especially towards the end.
As Roger Moore said, if you do anything nice to say about anyone, don't say it at all. However, I have to talk about Brad Whittaker.
Sorry.
No, I'm going to talk about it because my problem with this is that it feels like it's 20 years too late.
Yeah.
When you take him out of, not even out of isolation, when you just look at him within, this is a Timothy Dalton film. This is a Dalton Bond. How is this moron where he is? And that's where I really struggle with it. That it's a great advert for Warhammer, that's fine. But you look at great villains and so many things, but it's just weird. And I'm at risk of getting some reporting from Americans, but I don't care about your country's military history. And so many films force that in our face so often. And here's the passionate, patriotic American thing. And I'm not going to talk about that's 4 years of which idiot was in charge of their country. And I just feel like I've seen Donald Trump in a James Bond film, and it's someone I never liked. And I think, Chris, you are right. When you have, and I know that so many Bond films, you get your amazing set piece climax, and then here's going to be a smaller final altercation that comes after, which is fine. But I don't think it works, and he doesn't feel like intimidating. The gun with the PPE
Plastic
to protect
visor,
his face.
Yeah.
Why isn't Bond going for the kneecaps? And I don't do stuff like that. I never look at things like that. But Timothy Dalton against this guy, it's not. You could have had 57-year-old Roger Moore against this guy, and I would completely understand why he's in the film. But I just think you waste what you've had with Koskov. You waste using Dalton because we've had punchers, but Dalton's physical, and you want someone that you can imagine going toe to toe with. And I know we're going to get Sanchez in the next one, which I'm excited to talk about, but I just think with Whittaker, it's like what is it, like fish out of water? What's the saying? There's something off, and it's not about the character or what his goals are. It's the production that I don't feel it's a villain that they really thought about. I think someone should have stepped in and been like, you're getting Bond wrong. It's not this, and this is it. And I don't know. There's just something really. Is it just me though? Like, he looks like he's 20 years too late coming into a Bond film. And the fact that we get the actor back in GoldenEye as well in a completely different role, in a better role. It's different. No. I'm allowed to say that. That's not a spoiler. And I just think it makes it weirder when you've done that and then you're coming back to this. I don't know. I don't have any time for him, and I've spoken about him for a few minutes now.
My main two issues with Whittaker are, first of all, the casting, and second of all, he is not in it enough to be counted as a main villain.
Yeah.
Joe Don Baker is a fantastic actor, but he is such a jovial, amiable man, and he has got charisma coming off the screen, and it works so well in the Pierce Brosnan era in the character that he plays there. What you need for this character, if you are going to go for a sleazy man like Koskov, what you need a quiet, chilling presence as your other main villain. And Whittaker, I think, tries to do that, but it doesn't come off. And I think that's because they cast the wrong person, personally. And it's not against Joe Don Baker because he's a fabulous actor. I just think it's wrong decision. I really like the end battle between Whittaker and Bond. I mean, it's a cracking battle. I think I love the use of the whistle and the keychain. I love all. It is like a house of fun. It is very much Scaramanga type. The issue I have with it is that I'm not invested enough in Whittaker as a character for that to be the main battle. If he was at the Afghan air base and he was like overseeing everything that's going on, because at the end of the day, it's his money that he's put in to do this, and it's his baby, really. He's just selling more money to do that. The plot's not great, but he's doing is he's selling more money so he gets money on top of his arms. He should be there instigating that. He should be the puppet master, so we invest more into him, and then he can escape like Yorgi does from Afghanistan, and then we can have the scene back in Tangiers, and I'd go, right, I'm up for this. This is the final battle. It comes a bit left field because he's not been involved in the last half an hour before that, but I think it's a cracking fight. I don't want to criticize the fight. I really like the fight. And I think, unfortunately, because Whittaker's miscast and the problems I have with that, it naturally can bring down Koskov. But I don't think that's necessarily fair because I do quite like Koskov.
Whittaker will always come, near the bottom in polls of, worst baddies or whatever, because of all the reasons you've said. I think it's because you don't like the character because he's not a threat, is he? He's not a physical threat to Bond. He is a joke, but I'd say that's the whole point in the character. Like you were saying, all this brash American military history, that's obviously the satire that they're pointing at him. They're saying, this guy thinks he's a proper general, but hang on, he's got Hitler there, and you get the joke, well, Pushkin's like, butchers. You see sort of, they're not heroes. Why on earth are you following these people? And he is someone who's completely deluded. He's just a bit-time arms dealer who's gone above his station, and Bond is far too good for him. So in that sense, yeah, there's no threat. But I think what John says might have been better, as much as I love this Whittaker. The fact, if you had a cooler one, so you've got Octopussy, which is similar, and you've got two main villains, you could say. Kamal Khan though is the smooth one who's not as evil, and then you've got Stephen Burkoff, General Orlov, who is a complete nutter, but he's killed off first, isn't he? So then you could say, oh well, then Kamal Khan's no physical threat. So I didn't like the end of Octopussy, but no, I think it's the same. It's because you've just had those incredible stunts, both on the horse and then onto the plane in Octopussy, and we'll talk about it. With battle with Necros on hanging off the back of a plane. You know, you can't top that. So you're not I wasn't expecting some unbelievable, but I think it's absolutely brilliant. You know, the Craig era, the only end fight we get with anyone in 4 films is with that little, Dominic Green guy. You know, it's just and here we've got what 2 or 3 end battles, and we're complaining. So give me this any day. And I think the use of the I absolutely love that. It's using Mike in From Russia with Love almost, isn't it? You know, he gets given the gadget, Q shows him how to use it, and Moonraker, with the wrist gun, and that's how he kills the baddie. It's absolutely brilliant. I love it so much. And the use of the Bond theme and everything in that final, the music is superb. And, but it is Pushkin sort of proves it by sort of saying, the arms dealer, and then to Koskov, the diplomatic bag, like, because just again, but that's the problem, isn't it? Both of them aren't big fry, are they? They're not. They're just at the end of the day, their scheme is far worse than they are, I think.
Yeah, and I think you talked about Octopussy there, and not only have you got General Orlov, you've got Kamal Khan, but you also have what are the 2 brothers with the throwing knives called?
Mishka.
There we go. But all of those, as we mentioned in that review, completely different. You couldn't have more of an assortment of villains in that film, but each one did pose a threat. The film starts off with the brothers and killing 009, and Orlov is crazy and over the top and chewing the scenery, but he still felt threatening as a villain. And then Kamal Khan was threatening in the more smooth, reserved kind of way. And this one, you had 2 characters that were basically a joke, 2 characters that basically didn't have much screen time, in all honesty, to really get a good sense of them. The one character that did out of the villains, and he's a henchman, and to me, the henchman takes top tier in terms of the villains in this film for me, which is a thing that's never usually done, is Necros, played by Andreas, Wisniewski. I think that's how I'm going with the pronunciation on that. Terrifying. He is like the Ivan Drago character in this film, and I think we got warned when we did our For Your Eyes Only review. I think it was probably Nikolai who mentioned it. He said, get used to the Bond franchise having platinum blonde Russian henchmen / bad guys, and here we go. This is another one. But he was terrifying. Like, George, you mentioned it. We were chatting a little bit earlier. You said that the exploding grenade milk bottles was
beautiful.
Great. Yeah, and the bit where obviously he kills Sanders and he's like stalking him with the balloons, really like an iconic image for this film. And the fact that he is that physical presence that Bond goes up against at the end when they're both clinging onto the rope of, with all the opium in it. Great action set piece, and he is that physical villain, and he is imposing. Barely any lines of dialogue really, but he is that physical presence, and he looks intimidating. He looks terrifying. So I kind of wish this guy had been the main villain in a way. He does fit the henchman role more because he is kind of like the silent physical antagonist, but it's just a shame that you don't have a main villain to go along with him. You kind of have 2 middling villains who we keep getting told are terrifying and are really bad guys, but when you see them, you never get that impression because they're just an absolute joke. This guy felt like he was in the Dalton film that he should be. Those guys felt like this was at the beginning of Dalton's career back in like Live and Let Die or Man with a Golden Gun or something.
I love him. I think I'm going to give you one criticism of View to a Kill, and it's really unfair, but I wish that Dolph Lundgren wasn't in that and was this character, because this is basically Dolph Lundgren, right? And I think the actor's great. I know he's in Die Hard. He plays the Tony in the elevator. He reminds me of Red Grant from Russia of Love, like an 80s version of him. And I think he works, when you get him, I fully don't know what the MI5 base was. Like, it was like a temporary one. I know it was in like Oxfordshire, but I'll leave that because I need to research outside of it. But I love the whole build-up of the camera always cuts to the milk and the orange juice. You think there's something there, and you don't think it's the milk bottles either, though, do you? First time you think it's the orange juice, And they build it up. You get a great kitchen fight with him as well. What a way to set this one up. You get a savage kill. You get the agent actually doing agent things. It looks like he could get him, and the parrot just stays still.
The parrot.
And
Return of the parrot.
it returns. I just think it's really great to bring him into. And then when you get to the milk bowls, the whole, puts on the accent, call this, that there's been a gas leak. And it's like the scene in Dark Knight, like where you're going up. You're like, what? And that's what the gas leak is. And it's the milk bottles. And the way the scene plays out, credits the editing and for the directing of it as well. But, every time an explosion goes off, they are there. Oh my God, it's the gas leak. They were true. And it's such an interesting villain that he could have been a main villain off that one scene. And I know that we didn't really get a lot of that in the, I'd say, up to the Brosnan era when we have villains capable of, the main villains being capable of giving the kills. I would say until the Brosnan era more so than any of them. And I just feel like we get such a great moments. The balloons as well, when the fact he's killed Saunders as well with the door. And we didn't know how he was going to kill him, but we knew he would. And he's so interesting. And then you get the incredible fight on the plane. But it's a shame he has to go then. But at the same time, he gets to go, right, on one of the best scenes of the film. He doesn't get crushed by a statue on some Warhammer figure. So
hang on. I love the water.
Yeah, I forgot how he went out. Yeah, I thought he just got knocked out and he was going to get apprehended at the end, but I was like, that killed him? Like, okay.
And there's that was it. The Waterloo line. It felt a bit forced. Roger Moore could have. I think that Waterloo line would have been a perfect Roger Moore.
Yeah,
wouldn't it? But I absolutely love Necros. I just wish we both, flip a few things around, make him be the main villain, and we can still get the plane thing. But then, would that be too similar to Octopussy if that was the final moment? I don't know.
For me, Necros is absolute top tier henchman. I take Nikolai's point about having Red Grant copies, but Necros is different in terms of this man. I mean, Eric Kriegler, for example, I get that one. He's blonde and, he from For Your Eyes Only. He's very generic. But what we've got here is we've got a guy who wears a headset and has his own theme tune. And we have to remember this. He's like, where has everybody gone? And it's like, yeah, man.
It's a great song.
I mean, if Necros was ever a WWE wrestler, it'd be his theme tune. You could just imagine him just coming out like this, like yes,
with the headphones on as well.
Oh, with the headphones on. I mean, so we've got that. He's got his exploding milk bottle. He's got his accents and Greenfield bits. He loves it. All that. We're experiencing gas explosions and then he quickly changes his milkman costume and puts a stethoscope on and becomes a doctor. And then you've got the balloon stuff, and then you've got him in Afghanistan, which is probably him being normal, so to speak, with his massive Timberlands on and his bomber jacket and just looking the part. And he's a physical threat. And we haven't had a physical fight like this between Bond and a henchman for a very long time. Necros is tremendous. And Tom, I'm sure you want to talk about him because you spoke to the great man, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, you won that. Yeah. Oh, we've interviewed him on our... Yeah, he was one of the first interviews we did. So it was like childhood hero, like one of the best henchmen we've seen. And this guy from Berlin who's just... he's like a Zen Buddhist. He's like the most relaxed guy ever. Nothing like his character or anything. But yeah, he's a lovely guy, Andreas. And he was just telling us about all the experiences of filming it. And I think he said he obviously knew about the inspiration of, Red Grant and that sort of look and everything. But yeah, it's such a fun character. Like John said, the master of disguise, the strangulation seems to his method of killing, if you notice, which he does to the milkman. And then, of course, he tries to kill Bond at the end, strangling him. And he's also in the scene where, well, he's there to kill Pushkin, isn't he? He's there to assassinate Pushkin. Of course, Bond knows that this is going to happen because he's got to pretend that he's dead. So Bond intercepts him, and you've got a bit of a chase there. He's got the bit with Saunders at the fair, like you say, looking incredible. And he gets a John Barry song to, John Barry Pretenders song, which is incredible. And I think he is. If it depends, if you count Red Grant as a henchman, then he's probably the best henchman, isn't he? But because Red Grant, again, it was From Russia with Love's another one where there's no, because Blofeld's the main baddie, but he's not, he's not going to die, and he's not going to see. The brilliant art. You've got Rose Clive, and you've got well, it went off then. Sorry, I just went off for a second. Sorry. Yeah. So cool. when you mix the villains, it's more difficult, and you've got like henchmen as main villains. But I think Necro. Honestly, I do think he's possibly the best henchman we've got, and he's that. That's also why I think we think less of the other villains. But also, if we didn't have Necros, then yes, I agree. It would have been like, well, what's the point? It's all a bit of a flat fart at the end.
Yeah, I definitely think he's one of the most capable villains that we've had so far as well. Well, henchman or villain, just in general, really. So I think I appreciate that about him. I don't know how many tier lists we're going to do. I think we don't want to get too overkill with a tier list, but he'd be up there. Like in these kind of like nebulous tier lists that we've kind of got floating around at the moment, he'd be up there. Okay, let's get on to the music for this thing. I apologize in advance. This is probably going to be the most extensive music section for me, at least, to talk about out of most of the Bond films, because I actually find this, like, just in Bond in general, the music and the history of the music and the story behind how the theme came about for each film to be really, really interesting. And this one went through a lot of different ideas. So originally, it was going to be the Pet Shop Boys, British sort of like techno band, were given the gig for the theme song. But they were under the impression that they were going to be producing the entire soundtrack, and they said no, just the main theme, and they weren't having that, so they left. There are 2 demos that you can find on YouTube, which are dated from 1988, weirdly enough, but the story goes that they found, I don't know how many years after, they found 2 vinyls which were titled James Bond Demo 1 and James Bond Demo 2. Demo 1, I believe, it's just laughable. It's a fine tune, but it's like this really upbeat kind of bossa nova kind of 80s happy-go-lucky pop song, which would not have worked. It doesn't sound anything remotely like a Bond theme. It would probably have been the worst Bond theme, at least until Sam Smith with Writings on the Wall. But and then they produced another demo, which would eventually they would craft into a song which would be on their 1990 album Behavior. I think it's track 2, called This Must Be the Place I've Waited Years to Leave. Really good song, very moody, and you could tell that would have fit maybe more of like a Dalton era kind of song. So that's a great song. If anyone hasn't checked that out, go and check it out. That's definitely one of the great almost Bond themes in a way. And then we move on to the Pretenders as well. So they have 2 songs in this film, and actually this film, I guess, kind of marks it. I don't know how many films we have to come that have 2 songs, but you have your main theme and then a completely different song in the end credits, and I think this was the first film to do it. So you have If There Was a Man, which I've added onto my Spotify playlist I've got going on of Bond themes. Great song, really good chilled night drive song. I love a good ballad, and I've already heard the ballad from Next Week, which has been just constantly on replay. Patti LaBelle, absolutely tremendous. So I have kind of spoiled that for myself a little bit. Amazing song. And then, of course, as John beautifully sung just a second ago, we have Where Has Everybody Gone, also by the Pretenders. They were originally going to go with them to perform the song, but they saw how big Duran Duran's A View to a Kill was, and they wanted someone who was more popular. Enter Aha. I'm going to get to the main theme in just a second. So apparently the lead guitarist, I'm not going to try and pronounce his name because it's a very Norwegian name, he clashed with John Barry. There's a lot of creative differences there, and 2 versions of the song were produced, which I didn't know until earlier today. I've now listened to the other version. You've got the main film one, which has a lot of Barry influence. You've got the violins in there. You've got the orchestra. You've got like the brass punctuations in there. And then you've got Aha's take, which feels very much like their baby, like they have produced that 100%, and that appears on their 88 album Stay on These Roads. That was the one that I listened to earlier today. Never heard it before. It's good, but I think I'm so used to hearing the one that we get in the main film.
Yeah.
And I do really appreciate that orchestral influence that comes into it as well with Barry. I think it just elevates it to another level. The main theme itself, I like it just slightly less than A View to a Kill, but this is a top tier Bond theme for me.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely love it. And, you know, I'm a sucker for the 80s music, especially like the hard hitting like 80s rock or 80s pop stuff that we've got in this. And in all honesty, if I'm listening to, and vice versa, if I'm listening to The Living Daylights, I'm going to listen to A View to a Kill. If I'm listening to A View to a Kill, this is going on straight after. It's like the double whammy of 80s Bond themes that, and I guess triple whammy, License to Kill, I'd throw that in there as well.
Whoa.
It's incredible. Now, the Barry score itself, I'm kind of mixed on. It does really upset me that this is his last one, though, in all honesty. And apparently this was quite innovative for the time. He used like electronic rhythm tracks and then had the orchestra over the top, which, you know, it's innovative. That's what music should always be about, pushing it in new directions. But it did get a little bit samey. It just felt like you clicked a button on the keyboard and you had like dum, dum, like an 80s backing beat. And I mean, it was very 80s. It was exceptionally 80s. And I prefer Barry when it's more of the full orchestra, not techno, and you have like that grandiose sweeping strings and everything, kind of like what we got in A View to a Kill as well. I really like the score to that one. So as an overall score, it's not one of my favorites from Barry's. I think it works for the film. But again, when the Living Daylights melody kicks in orchestrally, especially in that third act, I think it kicks in when he's like either climbing into the plane or he's fighting in the plane. Oh like just the hairs on my arm just put on it. Yeah. Amazing. So yeah, I'm now going to breathe and pass over to you guys. But yeah, I think this is probably going to be one of the most immense music topics probably out of all the Bond films, but I've done it now. Absolute cracker.
My music knowledge, I'm just not going to upset anyone. I know pretty much nothing about music, so I can't even tell you who the Pet Shop Boys are. I'm sorry.
Oh my God, George.
What? But you know I don't know music, right? That's my weekly get out of jail card. What I can tell you about Aha is that I do know Aha music because my parents are big fans. And they've seen them, and this is again like A View to a Kill. Is this the Aha one? You know, and that's what the conversation is. But what I will say to this, like last week as well, these are the best back to back of any Bond theme you can listen to, any variation. Doesn't matter what it is, and the fact they came out film by film is incredible. But this is also one of the best ever songs you can drive a car to. I know I've said that recently. Yeah. But when you are flying and you know you're on your playlist and Duran Duran comes on, you know when you're settling down, when you're still on the high, you know that this is coming straight after, so you get pumped again to carry on. And it is an absolute tune. And I always call it motorway music, right? When you are on a motorway following a limit, you know, this is one of those songs which you really have to concentrate on not putting your foot down. That being said, you know, I'm not on the M42.
No, well,
it's just so hard not to enjoy yourself listening to it, isn't it? And this is what's mad that I'm, you know, Chris, how long have you know I don't do music, so like concerts I go to normally soundtracks and stuff. Mm-hmm. This is one like the songs I can talk about because it's, I mean, obviously it's involved in film, but I can talk about it for non-film things because it works so well. Yeah. If you didn't know it's a Bond theme, that's probably a big bonus because it's such a great song. And then you put it in this film, and you know you get the great opening credits scene. You know, I'm not a big fan of the yacht bit, but even the build up to this song coming, I think works well. And it's just once it starts, there's no stopping it. And I'm gonna say this isn't a criticism. This is like the least Dalton-esque song you could imagine. But it doesn't. But it's irrelevant, isn't it? Like, and that's the thing. Like, you know, with Craig, it's quite dour, isn't it? Like the last couple of like Craig songs really worked for his take on Bonds, and it's like you get like Living Dead. It's like Dalton's Bond and this. Like I'm not complaining. So it's a great song and we got it, but I'm glad they opted for this rather than something else. And you know we're going to talk about License to Kill next week.
Yes, we are. Getting Gladys Knight.
With Gladys Knight, but that song definitely works more, I think, for Dalton's take. Not that the Bond themes really reflect the Bond themselves, but if you can see where I'm coming from, you know, it'd be like, you know, imagine a bit like Billie Eilish on Roger Moore's Bond. You'd be like, what's going on here? Yeah. Whereas, you know, it works with the Craig because of the themes, the systematics of it. So I'm a massive fan of this. This is in not that I keep saying it's not recent. This is probably in my top 5.
Yeah,
I don't want to rank them. It probably is also in my top 3, but I need to sit down and say that, you know, there's a couple.
We also need to keep it a surprise for when we actually
I
do,
know.
because we are doing the themes.
This is why I should just keep saying it's in my top 25, and then that's the best way to approach it.
I'm just going to look at my list at what number The Living Daylights comes in at. 1, 2, 3. I do have a list. I'm a sado. I have a list for all these things.
Oh, wow.
Don't give us your top 3. Let's just keep it at that for now, because we might reach out to you to help out with the rankings later on.
The Living Daylights is my 7th favorite song.
Okay.
I love it. On the driving thing, do you think that's because the first line is "Hey driver, where we going"? Do you think it just gets you in the mood, like straight away?
I think you're in the mood before the words come out, though. Like, I think it's the
the saxophone in it as well. The saxophone hits it. Oh, it's so good. So I want to listen to it now.
My
we'll
wife,
get done for copyright.
My wife hates me singing this song because I have to do it with an R impression every time I do it. It's like, shut up. It's a class song. It's absolutely brilliant. It's worked superbly into the score. I mean, I feel like I'm going to have to defend a bit of the score because this score is my 3rd favorite Barry score. I adore this score, and I think the way it is that the 3 songs all are intertwined so well into the score. And yeah, I get that The Living Daylights and Where Is Everybody Gone, when they're action, there is a lot of drum synth there. It is a lot of beats and that kind of thing. But there's still a lot of there's a lot of brass in there. There's lots of Barry going on. And I mean, your stuff like Koskov Escape, that's classic Barry. There's no drum percussion stuff going on there. That's like full on epic brass. That could be straight out of Moonraker, that stuff. You know, it's a brilliant score. And we will get on to my favourite scene eventually when I've stopped rambling. But the one of the things that makes the Dalton and Pushkin scene so good is the stripped back, slower version of the Living Daylights theme that's going on in the background. And you strip away that music and you just play that straight. And in quite a lot of Bond films, sometimes it's better without the music. You know, I can't think of any examples, but there are moments where you think, no, it doesn't need music. That scene doesn't.
Right, no.
Well, he claimed that he wrote that in 10 minutes, like he thought it was something to
It
be
shows.
proud of.
It definitely shows. Like,
Chris, I can see a guitar in your picture.
yes,
I will give you 20 minutes, and I can guarantee you can make a better song than that. You know?
Challenge accepted. There we go.
The challenger says you need 2 chords, a G and a D, and you've got it sorted. You know? But I love the soundtrack. I love the song. I love this era where they start bringing in songs at the end. I mean, it's glorious. Yeah. It's a quality era.
Does that last for quite a while, the whole 2-song thing? I know it is in the next film.
Up to Tomorrow Never Dies.
Oh, wow, okay.
We're
I need to add a lot more songs to my playlist then. That's good.
Yeah.
There's 2 songs for quite a few of them, actually, going forward. Until Down of the Day, I think. Yeah, there's only one, isn't there, for Down of the Day? Yeah.
You have all the Oakenfold kind of stuff going on.
Oh, yeah. In the eyes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll let you talk, Sam, because you are our Barry maestro when it comes to.
Well, yeah, I'm absolutely obsessed with John Barry. I was brought up with all these Bond themes, and I bought all the soundtracks when I was in my teenage years. So they're just in my brain all the time. And then I started buying all the non-Bond Barry soundtracks, and a lot of them are brilliant because they sort of make me imagine what if Bond went into the 90s with John Barry, what he could have done. So you've got like the he won 2 Oscars in the 90s, for Dances with Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
In the 80s with Out of Africa.
Yeah.
And it's like, those could have been used as amazing. You know what I mean? Like he's got the same thing going on in those. But yeah, for this one, the amount of work that's gone into this is just tenfold to that's going on in the soundtracks these days. It's just a joke. So the guy has written 3 songs, all completely different. He's got one for the henchman, and of course it's used as an instrumental in the end fight, not the instrumental of the song, Where's Everybody Gone? And then it merges on into more of the score. You've got the main song, which is just, like we said, I love the sort of Moonraker all-time high instrumental themes, the beautiful John Barry melodies, but we all agree that bit of a come down after an epic pre-title sequence to have this lovely ballad, That's why I think this one and A View to a Kill are just perfect. They're just so Bond. They get you in the mood for being Bond. They just make me feel like I'm in that world. And I think the use of the synth is more perhaps in the action music than the song itself, I think, because you accept a bit of that. If it's an 80s aha, Duran Duran, it's gonna have some of that, isn't it? Mm. But they get what it is to be Bond. They understand what it's got to be an exciting Bond song. And John, you will say, in the scene where Pushkin's on his knees, the use of the actual Living Daylights theme in a more gentle but slightly different way is perfect for that. And the love theme is it's beautiful with it on the piano and the way it. Oh yeah, I absolutely love it, and I think there's about 7 or 8 cues on this soundtrack. Again, you'd never get that these days. It would just be the same drum, and the same music throughout. Like you've got if you look up Mujahideen and Opium, the track, it's just a beautiful string track that is you'll be playing it, Chris. Basically, you'll be playing that a lot. So there's the music at the start, the music in the fight scenes. I just don't think it could be better. And I agree that I think from A View to a Kill, Living Daylights, License to Kill, and GoldenEye, I can't. They're maybe not my top 4 Bond songs, but they're like absolute. That run is just incredible for me.
Yeah, I think this soundtrack's going to have to be one that I listen to in isolation, like afterwards.
Yeah.
Sometimes themes just jump out to me, moments just stand out to me as I watch the film. Other times I have to listen to the soundtrack just on its own, just musically, and I appreciate it a lot more then. And just before we round off with the music, as we mentioned, this was Barry's last score. I mean, just as like a sort of like final sign off on that. Just revitalized the Bond sound, made the Bond sound what it is. I know he didn't write the main James Bond theme from Dr. No, but we say that with other composers as well. Maybe, to a completely different degree with a much smaller franchise, but Hans Zimmer with Pirates of the Caribbean, it's where he didn't necessarily write all the themes, but when he comes on board, just elevates that music. And that's exactly the same with Barry. I don't think you can have Bond, and I don't think Bond would be what it is today without the music that he produced for it. So I'm interested to see where all the other scores go. Obviously, I'm aware of some of the more modern ones with the Craig stuff, but I don't know what I'm getting with the Brosnan music. I've heard very mixed things. So in a few weeks' time, I guess I'll find out. And even just next week, I'm interested to hear what the music's like in that one.
James Bond meets Die Hard meets Lethal Weapon.
Oh, okay. Oh, you've got me. Okay, I'm excited. Let's go on to favorite scenes then. I think we've talked about quite a few of my favorite scenes already, so I'm just going to sort of breeze through them real quick fire. All the stuff on the plane at the end when the back opens and the netting and they're climbing up it, absolutely great. And when the main theme kicks in during that moment, I can't remember which specific moment it was, but it was a moment during the third act where it kicked in. I love the opening stuff with the pipeline and the sniper stuff and the opera at the beginning. So that's kind of a collection of scenes, but just the feel and the mood of it at the beginning part of the film I thought was really good. And, I have problems with some of the comedic elements. I don't like when Bond is driving a house. That's just, why is that in this film? The bit with the laser beam, as I mentioned, kind of out of place when he cuts the car in half. I do like the missiles. I guess that's where I draw the line with gadgets, I guess. Like, missiles are okay. Laser beams, no. And at least not for this version of Bond. But I will say that chase scene is memorable. If I'm thinking of like main bits that are standing out to me from the film, it would be pretty much just the action scenes. It'd be the opener, it'd be the ending, and it would be sort of like the midpoint in the film with this scene and the cello case, which I have problems with, but it's memorable. It is memorable to the film. So I guess they'd be sort of like my three main favorite scenes. And the return of the parrot was great. Actually, the Ferris wheel. Actually, no. Above all else, above all of those, the Ferris wheel scene. Because as I mentioned, Bond is a fascinating character. I love the mood of it, the low lighting. You've got the glow of kind of the city. You've got the glow of the surroundings outside. Bond putting the moves on the Bond girl, but I don't know. He's kind of intimidating. It feels like he's going through the motions with this one a little bit, but he's still on the case. He's still on the job. That scene, probably out of all of them, cemented Dalton's Bond for me in this film. So I'd probably have to put that as my number one.
Good.
My favorite scene, I mean, you've listed many great ones. Trying to put it on a limb, it's got to be the fake assassination of Pushkin, but as well the scene before it with the hotel room that, you know, I mean, the fact like when he rips her dress off, that's not your Roger Moore, like, haha, I shall seduce. That's like, you're a fucking weapon for what I'm about to do now. And that's when you know you've got a different Bond. He doesn't care about her. He's not trying to sass her or anything like that. He knows he needs to use her to draw some attention. And I think everything you need to know about Dalton happens in the next few scenes. When he kills Pushkin, so like, how many films do you watch with fake assassinations? And it's so obviously fake. This feels like one of the only genuine ones because it's just the way in which Dalton's so convincing in doing the killing. And I think that's where his Bond stands out. Like obviously then it's not called License to Kill, but he's a killer. He's a spy, and he, you know, I know a lot of people going about the whole, like, you know, on a Majesty's Secret Service, that this is, you know, putting the country first. This is the man's job. He was born to do this, and he is doing it in a way that not many of us can. And I think it's moments like that. So that scene's got to be my favourite. And I think that also comes down to your John Rhys Davies that shares it with him, who enables to get that he can pull off the whole fake death thing and everything. So there's that. And then obviously, you know, I read the raid on the headquarters at the start was a great way. And not many villains have successfully done stuff like that and got through to MI5, which is, it's always interesting when they do, rather than just bomb them, which happens in many of the ones. But it's a very fascinating one, and it builds up a villain, which is what you want. So probably my two favorite scenes. But yeah, I'm the same as you, Chris. I'm unfortunately not a fan of the cello. I wanted to try and shout the why didn't you learn to play the violin, but I just can't do it as good as Timothy Dalton.
Oh yes,
that was a good line.
Yeah, for me, the first 2/3 of this film, I could pick any one of the scenes. I'm not being hyperbole there. I just feel that what we've gone back to is Bond being a spy. You start off with the amazing sniper scene in Bratislava, and he uses his instinct not to kill Kara because he doesn't think she's a sniper. Then he does the whole Koskov getting through the pipeline, unbelievable. Then you got the raid at the Blade and Safe House, and then M gives him this mission to go and kill Pushkin because the Schmidt spion him, and he decides against that. He decides to go and investigate, and what you've got is cat and mouse there, just amazing, straight through Bratislava, coming out the other side, getting to Vienna. On your point about the Ferris wheel, me and my wife on our first year wedding anniversary, we went crossing Europe on the train. What's it called, Tom? I've absolutely Interrailing. That's it. We went interrailing, and we ended up in Vienna on our first anniversary. So I took her on the Ferris wheel at night for that.
That's awesome.
I felt like so, and she thought it was the most romantic thing ever. She was completely oblivious that I thought I was James Bond, and I put it on Facebook, like, oh, lovely picture, and she's like, oh, it's so cute and all. And then I remember Tom, amongst many other people, quoting Living Daylights quotes underneath. I'm like, do you want another ride and all this?
Like another ride.
And Rachel's like, what are they going on about? Oh, I don't know, love. Silly boy stuff, you know.
To this day, has she seen the film and knows where it's from?
Gosh, yeah, she just hates it. She just rolls her eyes at me every time. She hates Bond out of principle because I just never shut up about it.
Okay.
But my absolute favourite scene is in Tangiers when we've got Timmy D in his gorgeous beige suit and he gets the Walter PPK out with the silencer on and he points it at Pushkin. And you've got some amazing dialogue on your knees, General, and all that. And it's a quality bit of dialogue. And you see the conflict in Timmy that he's thinking, I'm supposed to kill this guy, but I don't want to. I want to find out what's going on. Pushkin presses his button. His security guard comes in. His use of his wife, it's visceral. I mean, it's brutal how he does it. But that's what a spy would do. And then for it to be finished with, then I must die. And you don't know where that's going. You've just seen all this conflict. You don't know where it's going. And then when he gets shot in the next scene, I remember the first time I watched it, I thought he was dead, full stop. I just thought that was him, Bond had killed him. And then to realise it was all part of the ploy, it's just genius. It's unbelievable. And we've got the score going on in the back. I mean, this is... I'll stop because I'm over protesting because I feel like I need to try and pull back some points for this film. But it's I just love it. Go on, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, you've said in the first two acts, pretty much wall to wall. But then even in the third act, the end fight with Necros is one of the all-time best, end fights with the henchman in the whole series. And the way it was shot, actual two stuntmen hanging off the back of this plane, the making of it, it was most, nearly decapitated when it, remember, like the cargo net keeps coming into the back, the way he has to sort of go off that, it was so dangerous to film. But the way that goes out, the music and the look on his face, and as he's no, the scream holding the boot, it's an actual guy in stuntman falling out of a plane. It's no CGI then, of course. So that's But in the earlier bits of the film, other scenes we haven't mentioned. I've been to Vienna with my wife, and it's honestly it's probably the most beautiful city in Europe. It's absolutely stunning. So to go to like the Schönbrunn Palace and see all those places and the opera, I'm a big, massive Mozart fan, massive classical music fan, and just to see Bond in his dinner jacket there, it's just this is what you want to be. This is what I want Bond to do more of. And in fact, I think you mentioned it in a recent review of Quantum of Solace. It's really nice to see him back at an opera and in a dinner jacket, because that to me is as much Bond as having a fight with somebody. The only other one I'd mentioned, we haven't really touched on it, is the fight between Necros and Green 4, basically the security guard in the safe house. In the kitchen, it's what I think that is up there with one of the best fights in the series. You'll see one in GoldenEye. There's a great one in GoldenEye, Chris. You'll love that one.
Okay.
But, yeah. The way it's pretty for a PG. Trying to burn his face, and then with using all the electrical equipment.
The pan got me. The boiling pan. I was like, someone's going to get Watchmaned in a minute. That's going over someone like. And
Andreas, Necros, he told us it took about 3 weeks to film. It was all every single bit was done, planned. It wasn't, it wasn't improvised. And he's a stuntman, the guy. I think Bill Weston was it who did it with. And it's just this guy means business. It's another brilliant introduction to a character in the franchise.
I feel like that's a list somewhere, not just of Bond, but like kitchen fight scenes, because there are many of them. Nothing's ever going to top Rick Maylaid Edmondson Guest House Paradiso, though. That's always going to be the best kitchen fight scene. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Which brings us on to the weekly Bond one-liner, and as I expected this, going into Dalton, that this wasn't going to be the quippy Bond. There were some in there, so I think you guys are going to have to help me out on this one. And I don't actually have the full context of some of these, and I don't even remember who says some of them. I have Better Make It 2. I know that was a Bond one. I can't remember. Was that at the beginning on the yacht when they calls in? Yeah. What else have I got on here? Now, this one I have a feeling was used in an earlier James Bond film because it sounds really familiar to me. We have an old saying too, and you're full of it. I swear that was used in an earlier Bond film, and I mentioned it on one of these reviews. I can't remember
Roger Moore used it in Golden Gun.
That might be it. Yes, he did. Yeah, 100% right. This one's from Q, actually. Something we're making for the Americans. It's called a ghetto blaster. And it's like a boom box which plays a sweet 80s jam, and it's a bazooka. Great, loved it. And then I think my favorite one, although I know you guys have mentioned some other good ones too. We've nothing to declare except cello. I mean, you know my thoughts on the cello part, but I mean, that takes it for my number one-liner, and that is slim pickings for me. That is it. Compare that to my list from last week.
Kill.
So many. There were too many one-liners I wrote down from last week. I missed some off last week, actually. There were that many, but that'll do it for my one-liners. How about you guys?
I always loved the strawberry jam from Timothy Dalton.
Yes.
It's not the line. There's something really like I feel as if he's uncomfortable delivering it, and that's why I love it so much. And it's the way though he reloads the sniper as he's saying it. You know, it's not a Roger Moore like a nice dessert to your main meal of action. It's like him prepping, and he's angry that he's had to say strawberry jam. Like it's just amazing. But that's one of them. But my favourites, it has to be Pushkin, hasn't it? To the end, it's about in a diplomatic bag. That's just I mean, it's so obvious that films do it, but it's always great when they do something like that. And obviously, you know, I'm assuming he means a dead body bag, but we never get to find out with that bit. But you know, I always like to think, well, we know what the Russians are like in the 80s, so there's probably like bits and bobs.
Like Jesus.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, it's probably the same now. But yeah, you know that Koskov's getting home in about 50 different pieces.
Yeah, I mean, there's not very many quippy kind of comments in this film. I actually love the whole bit in the car where Dalton says, "Tell him if he fires me, I'll thank him for it." He says, like whatever happened must have scared the living daylights out. Yeah. And it's his wolf eyes when he looks. He's like absolutely glaring. They're the that's when I think of Dalton. They're the lines it sells. Like the strawberry jam one, superb line. Those I love that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I love sort of some of Koskov's. I told you the Russians would believe you. I told you. Is it what he's like kissing Bond? Is he like?
Yeah.
God, thank you. You know, like, always do impressions of all these people. But yeah, I love that, and there's. I mean, the bit. I think you've already said the one like Kara. We're in the middle of a Russian air base in Afghanistan. The sort of sarcasm that he does is brilliant. I love that bit.
There's also the idiotic Scouse guy with the big. I did not tell you to get up. I did not tell you to go down.
Oh yeah, he was great.
So random, that guy. Yeah.
He was the best villain in this film. He's just slapping around Bond.
Yeah. And the other really old guy who he knocks his head, you know, like such old fat guards.
Oh, I'm so glad we mentioned him. I completely forgot about him. I'm glad that we had the review on him.
You will not be hung in the morning. You will be shot.
Oh man. Oh god. I don't even know where to follow that up now. Final thoughts, I guess. This takes us on to final thoughts. I've got to bring it down now. I'm sorry, guys. This was very average for me. I was checking my watch, implying that I still have a watch. I was checking the timer on my phone multiple times during this film, and I felt really shitty for doing it, but it didn't hold my attention as much as some of the previous entries have that we reviewed. I thought it was a really strong first act. I like the tone of it when it is serious. I think the comedic bits would work in other Bond films, but kind of clash with Dalton a little bit. I think my favorite thing from the film is pretty much just Dalton himself. I'm very, very impressed with, just seeing him in his first of only 2 performances as Bond, but the hype has been set for the next one. So this is like set the stage, and I'm liking what I'm seeing from his performance, and I think it's all going to come together in the next one. But yeah, as a film, it's got a villain problem. It's got a massive villain problem. It's got a plot problem to me as well. I think it's got an intriguing initial setup from the first act. I don't care for the Bond girl. I don't care about the villains, and the plot's kind of all over the place. And those are some big aspects about the film that are lacking for me that bring it down considerably. So I'm going to end on an awful aha joke that's just came to me from the lyrics. I guess I set my hopes up way too high with this one, and maybe I did, but I was really impressed with Dalton, and that's my biggest takeaway from this one. So sorry guys, but this is a very, very average one for me.
No, that's absolutely fine. I'm gonna once again double up. The problem I have with it's not even a problem with the Dalton films. We just don't get enough of him, and this is such a great debut for him. More, when you talk about Goldeneye, right? You think, the film and it's Brosnan's first film. This one is very much like Dalton nailed on perfect, and I wish some of the other things were on the level that he could have been. And I think if he could have had them with him, that would have made it almost one of the better ones, which is like what we get next week with License to Kill. So I'm always in a red one with this because I like so much about it, but the villains let me down and just the boredom of the plot. There's some great, allies in this film, and there's great set pieces, performance, set pieces. It's what you want, but there's always just a couple of things missing for me, which does bring it down to just like a plain average. And it's not badly made or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It's just that you're just missing. I always feel like I'm missing something, and I'm gonna blame Brad Whittaker for that. Maybe what John said earlier. That villain stuff I think actually would have solved a lot of problems. But listen, Dalton's debut is absolutely rock solid from him, and it leaves you wanting more of him, and that's the goal, right? You do want to see this James Bond come back next time, and I've personally not had that problem yet. Obviously, I know we're closing out with Craig in the next few months, and I'm much happier knowing we're going into it being his last film rather than being an unknown quantity. But I think kudos to Eon for taking a risk on Dalton as well. I think if you look back, bringing in an edgier, darker Bond in the late 80s after Connery, that's a very risky path, and it did work. It did work, and fair play to them, especially dealing with the issues they had at the very beginning with Brosnan having to go back to Remington Steel. So I enjoy it. There are some incredible moments, but there's just, like I said, there's always something missing for me. So, on a day, if you're going to slap one on, I'm always putting License to Kill on, not The Living Daylights.
Yeah. I love this film. Absolutely love it. I'm aware of the flaws. I take the point about Whittaker and feel that he drags down the Koskov relationship a bit. And I do feel slightly disappointed that after a great mystery, it comes down to an opium smuggling plot. But what we also have is we have Timmy Dalton, who is just mesmerizing. I can't take my eyes off this man because he is just when he is acting, he's just so conflicted. He's a reluctant hero. He's so different from anything that's gone before, and it's phenomenal. We have one of the best henchmen in Necros. We have fantastic locations, absolutely superb locations in this. Especially anything in Vienna, absolutely stunning. The score is tremendous. The set pieces at the end and the battle, it's great to just see a big epic battle at the end. Absolutely love all that. This story keeps me going all the way out. It's got three absolutely tremendous allies in Saunders, Cameron Shah, and Pushkin. And I can put this on and I can just sit there for 2 hours and enjoy it so much. And this is actually one of my favourite Bond films. So, yeah, there we go.
So, Chris, if it's an average Bond film, does that mean it's brilliant then?
I don't know. Once I've watched all the other ones, maybe some things will get shuffled around. Maybe things will come up and come down. Yeah. So I don't know. But this one was just sort of, it was okay. It's not a bad. It's not a bad film by any stretch of the imagination. It's not.
Yeah.
But it's just it's, as I said, just a bit average for me. How about you?
Yeah. Like there's the average Bond films to me are like way better than the average film. So that's what I was trying it. But we're famous for obsessing over Dalton, and even though we've only get these 2 films, I think with the John Glenn ones, you've got Few Eyes Only Octopus in this one, where the plot is quite complicated and there aren't defined baddies, and some people say the baddies aren't good enough and that sort of thing. And then you've got A View to a Kill and License to Kill with clear defined one bad guy right from the start to the end. It's much simpler, even though there's some complicated plot strands in them. But you don't need to explain it. You just watch it. You can enjoy it and get absorbed in it. For this to have such a complicated plot, so much going on, it's so entertaining. Again, because I've seen it, so I think James took me, my older brother, to the cinema. I can barely remember. I was so young, so it was like the first film I was ever taken to the cinema for. And we then had it on video when bought it on video when hardly anyone bought stuff on video. So it was like Reece. I mean, it must be. I'd dread to think how many times I've seen it. So I'm biased towards it. But like John said, you've got all that, just stuff like the bursting of the balloon, Dalton's face, and the smeared spionum on the balloons, the detail from John Glenn, just to make it all work. I genuinely think. I mean, my top 4 are usually these from Octopussy to License to Kill. So I don't really want to name my favourite, but it's definitely one of my favourites. And I do, like I said, I understand the flaws with it. Again, a lot of it's because I've grown up with it, and I can't sort of like even with Man with the Golden Gun. You grow up with it, and I thought it's such a fun, silly film. But then as an adult, you get all these people. Oh, this doesn't make sense. That's silly. He's rubbish, and I'm just like, I can't be bothered listening to that. I just really enjoy it. So with this, it's like this isn't like that because it's more serious, and it is. I think most film critics would have to sort of say, hang on, this is pretty good filmmaking. Yeah, it often is a bit complicated, and it may be that the third act doesn't quite live up to it until the very end. And I love the opera, the final scene. I think it's lovely, and it's a Bond girl who, yes, we've been a bit down on her, but you do feel like there could possibly be something that they might see each other just for a few months, a year or two. Not saying he's going to settle down with her, but there's a bit more to their relationship, I think, than others. So, yeah, I think it suits Dalton well. The next one is tailor-made for Dalton.
And that's the one we'll be moving on to next week. So next week, which will be Tuesday, the 3rd of August, we will be talking License to Kill. Its reputation precedes itself at this point, not just from you guys telling me about it, but other people that we've had on the channel as well, always hyping up that one. So I'm looking forward to that one. Again, moving into new territory with that one, but now I've got now I know what Dalton's all about. That's made me very intrigued for next week when we get to that one. But before we do, getting ahead of ourselves, I think this is going to be a fascinating discussion, and hopefully you guys have been commenting along too. But if you are just discovering this after we've premiered the video, let us know your thoughts on The Living Daylights. I think the Dalton conversation is a fascinating one, and I think it's often one that gets overlooked in Bond discussions because he only did 2. So I'm interested to hear what people think on this one. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. As next week, it will be the final 10 Bond films. It'll be like the number 10 countdown, won't it? I know it's gone so quick. Really, really quick. When you say like we're doing a series of videos, it's going to be 25 weeks. You're like, oh my God, it's never ending. We're into like the final 10, which is absolute madness. But
even better, next week will be the penultimate episode away from Pierce Brosnan as well. So we're almost there, folks. I've been waiting for GoldenEye for a very long time. Sorry to keep bringing up GoldenEye.
Brilliant.
Chris will like it. I think. I'm confident.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's the one I'm resting on most. That and Die Another Day. I'll take you hating License to Kill if it means you love GoldenEye.
I'm going to love Die Another Day. I know I will.
You're going to trust me. You will. I think you're going to love Die Another Day and GoldenEye and License to Kill. But maybe I'll be proven wrong in the next 6-7 weeks because I'm going to bring the roadmap once more. We haven't done it for a while. But this is the current schedule of things. Of course, we are on the Dalton era. Look at that. And as I said, GoldenEye coming up soon. Great Bonds, 2 great Bonds. And eventually, will be on towards the end as we rack up towards Spectre. And as we keep saying, there's going to be an update video soon. There's a lot of things we're going to do after No Time to Die has come out. We know we're going to do a spoiler-free review and a spoiler discussion, but there's also going to be some other Bond things happening. So we will have an update video before, I think we said, before Brosnan videos start. We're going to put a couple of things to you guys at home to let us know what you want to see. So we don't have any plans outright confirmed yet, but definitely there's going to be more Bond after the new film, which is very exciting because as these episodes are getting longer and longer. So why not? People love it. No, we absolutely love it, and we want to be able to do some more stuff after because there's going to be a lot of other things we want to discuss with the franchise. So yeah, I just wanted to plug that. But also, guys, thanks again for coming on. As I said, we can't not have a Dalton discussion without Ray 007. So we've mentioned you've done a lot of videos recently about the Allies. If you want to let people know what is also coming up on the channel and where they can find you, you've got the social media scrolling at the bottom as well.
Yeah, I mean, we record so many in advance; it's hard to remember which is coming out next. But by the time this goes, we watch it live now on the Tuesday. I think you'll be able to listen to our Casino Royale review. So my word, that was recorded back in January, I think. So that tells you a lot. And it took us 4 sessions, each of about 2.5, 3 hours. So,
oh my God.
It's a great film. It's a great film.
I think
this isn't the 1967 one.
No.
That's good.
No.
That's good.
So on there, I think there were 5 or 6 of us, which is why it took so long. But we are famously not, Craig's the least favourite of our Bonds, but John is a fan of that film, massive fan of that film, and we've got James Stewart from the For Your Reconsideration pod on that, and he's a huge fan of the film. So we hope by the time this comes out and you're listening to this live, hopefully that'll be out and you won't have sort of unsubscribed because we've been so negative. I think we're a bit more fair. I think we are for that episode. Do you think, John?
Yeah.
Harry wasn't. I don't think Harry was fair. No.
I'm intrigued.
Some divisive opinions, but it's a great film to talk about. And yeah, I'm sure that chat will be going for a few good weeks. Yeah.
I'll be checking that one out. Definitely, I'm intrigued now. That there was a pregnant
to
pause
spoil your
right there
review,
before that answer.
Yeah, I'll be interested in your review of that film as well.
Yeah. Well, it's soon come round, won't it? It'll soon come round. But absolutely, give them a subscribe, give them a follow, listen to them, all that good stuff. And as we mentioned, we've got links in the description down below where you can find them. I'm sure we've got you on another one of these before we're all said and done on them anyway. And if you want to follow our stuff as well, you can find that scrolling along the bottom now. Cinema Savvy on pretty much everything. Twitter is cinema_savvy. I've had some great interaction with you guys as well, and we hope to continue that as well as we get up to the release of No Time to Die. But this has been an immense review tonight. This has been a great one. So thank you once again to you two, and thank you to everyone who's hopefully watching at this point. And we'll see you guys next time. Take care, everyone.